Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, Tony Evers, State of the State, Special Edition. Welcome to it, Dominic.
Happy Tuesday, Crudy. Pardon me, Evan, on the board, our fair audience. It is a big Tuesday, State of the State. We're bringing you coverage up until Tony Evers takes the stand.
That means bonus 3 hours of the greatest radio show ever. Kind of like the old times, right, Tom?
Right, the old days.
Now it feels like, oh, that might be a lot of effort. You were saying,
totally
3 hours. We used to do 3 hours every day of our lives for like 10 years.
It was.
Anyways,
It was a lot, Crudy. But now it's 2 hours. Now it's easy.
except today when it's less easy. We're gonna make it easy. We're gonna bring some fine guests on, the greatest radio show ever, including Civic Media's own, our buddy Earl Ingram, the host of the Earl Ingram Show. Me and Earl have been talking a lot lately, mostly talking smack about you behind your back.
Bring it. I love Earl, man. He doesn't come around nearly enough.
Well, Earl's going to come around about 4:30, and part of the reason I invited Earl on today, of all the days, is because apparently he's the only guy on the network that the governor, Tony Evers, likes enough to actually go on the guy's show.
Would you do, Crudy?
I don't know. It's been years, man. I'm sick of contemplating. You know, whatever anger there might have been for yours truly. I think it should have been buried long ago. We helped the guy win re-election. I mean, Jesus, move on already.
Come on, though, Crudy. You know, sometimes, people can hold a grudge or have a really long memory. I'm not one of those guys.
I am, but I've moved on. Moving on, we got other fine guests like the Democratic Party chair, great state of Wisconsin. Ben Wikler is coming on 5:05, going to make the happy hour a lot happier, Dom. And then we're going to mix it up. Bonus coverage and more of our friends. You know, technically, Up North News, Pat Krietlow, who's going to join us at 6:05. Evers went on his show as well. Pretty sure. Pretty sure I've heard the promos of Pat Krietlow, anchor of Up North News, right here on the Civic Media Network, early morning, 6 to 8 a.m., everywhere. And occasionally, Tony Evers comes around on his show. Not this one, though. Just saying. What'd you do? Although everyone knows it's me. It's not you, it's me.
It's you. It's not me, it's you.
And then tonight, we're going to have in the Assembly Chamber coverage brought to us by our news director, Civic Media News Director, Terry Bell. So if possible, we'll check in with Terry. But I know we're going to check in with the anchor of the fine coverage right here, the extended coverage, live speech kicking off approximately 7. But Todd Allbaugh, host of the Todd Allbaugh Show, he's going to join us, let's say about 6:50. In the super duper third bonus hour, Todd's going to join us and, tell us what to expect from the dynamic Tony Evers speech. I can't wait for the speech, Tom. I'm so excited.
What is the state of the state, Crudy?
Surplus. That's the state of the state. There's
that's the real deal. The surplus, $6 billion.
Gets to play Santa? Who gets to put through their tax cuts? And how's Tony going to sell it? It's his only opportunity for the entire year. I don't know if Tony's team appreciates the gravity of this evening. Since he has been reelected, they had the party, little inauguration ball. Didn't even bother asking when that was this year. But the state of the state, this is his only chance to effectively sell his agenda, sell his budget, and to explain to the people of the great state of Wisconsin, doesn't matter what he does. The opponents, the Republicans in this case, they're gonna shred his budget, and they're gonna throw back their twisted versions flat taxes, regressive tax rates, 3.5%, something like that. Now, personally, selfish bastard that I am, yeah, give me the tax cut. I'm just like everybody else. But if that means my property taxes are going to continue to go up because they're not properly funding local school districts, and the only way to get the money in the hand of these districts is we, the citizens, have to go raise our own taxes over and over and over again under these legislative Republicans. And of course, we got to go to the referendum, local binding referendum process. They're only locally binding, Dom. So anyways, big night, state of the state. Here's what I would say. Historically, Dom, we've made a big deal out of this one, either because it was wanker state of the state, and originally we got thrown out of the one, or at least disinvited.
Disinvited. That sounds more accurate.
Somebody came in from still Assembly Speaker Robin Voss's office on a federal holiday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, as fate would have it, and we'd been credentialed, and then we were uncredentialed. What's the opposite of being credentialed?
Uninvited, I guess.
We were uninvited from Scott Walker's State of the State address. And we made a pledge to the audience at that time, Dom. We weren't going to take it lightly. So we did outside the Assembly gallery coverage. We probably would have found that night's event, no one would have paid attention until you make it about us not being able to be in the room.
Until you make it personal.
And so anyways, I remember vaguely making, Walker Bash go viral that night. Brandon Weathersby from the Democratic Party at that time, he let us know, boys, I think it's viral. So what would be the Tony the Evers speech? How can we make Tony go viral tonight? And also, most importantly, what do you got in the drinking game?
Pick there we go. Let's get to it. Yes.
The real, if you're going to be a political junkie like we are, and this is a political party, we're having fun. Sometimes
it is a party.
Sometimes we, bust your balls a little bit. So drinking game. What would be your preferred Tony Evers trigger word for slamming one back, Tom? Just, tequila or beer.
I have to go to the low-hanging fruit, the easy one. But you got to be careful. You don't want to get, too lit up. Holy mackerel. I mean, every time Tony Evers says holy mackerel, you got to take a drink.
Okay. I mean, that's the obvious pedestrian one. That's one of his trademarks. Folks might be another one.
Folks is another one.
But that's sort of a throwaway when he says folks. I mean, I think this will be a well-crafted, but if he falls into any vocal ruts, he'll throw a couple of extra folks out there. That one could get you a little buzzed up on a Tuesday night, school night.
And we do know, Tony can be a passionate man sometimes. So anytime he drops a swear word, perhaps, like this is BS. I hope someone's working the board tonight, Crudy.
Gets a little salty. We've had to dump a couple of live speeches on behalf of the then candidate Tony Evers at the DPW, I believe summer of 2018, threw a GD in for good measure during his live speech. And above and beyond that, I know when I was in La Crosse, although I wasn't broadcasting it live, Tony Evers came out to the landing at the La Crosse Center for the Democratic Party convention, but it was also the day after the Dobbs ruling had come down. And Evers came out and said, I got 7, 12, I forget how many, but I'm not trying to undermine the number of granddaughters he has. I just don't recall the number. It was quite a few. At least a half a dozen granddaughters.
Yeah.
Tony acknowledged having. And so anyways, got a little police thing going on outside the window here. Getting a little interesting.
What'd you do, Kurt?
It's not for me for a change, but we got a couple of cops on the beat here walking down the street, following a woman, questioning her while there is a car blocking traffic on University Ave, a cop car, kind of walking, following them. So I don't know what they think she did, but she's going to continue walking And no, it's still going. So anyways, I thought they were going to throw her down on the ground. I thought there could be some police scuffle. I had never seen that where cops like walk down the street, like questioning you, but then one's following and one's sidecarring you on University Avenue, a busy road.
All the times that you've been stopped and arrested and questioned, I mean, I'm surprised if you haven't seen it, Cody. It must be pretty rare.
Holy mackerel.
Holy mackerel.
So you're holy mackerel. And I'm throwing in for legalize marijuana.
Yes. Yes.
Only it won't be a drinking game. I don't actually, between you and I in the audience. It's Tuesday, man. I'm not drinking. Isn't it still dry? Dry November or something?
Dry January? Yes.
Dry January?
That is a thing. That is a thing. And I've
Summer's still observing
myself. But, listen, if you do the dry thing, and kudos to you, that's cool. It's nice to always do something better for your health. But if you go back to, whatever it was before you went to your dry January in February, you're really not making any changes. If you get up and go to the gym for a month and then don't work out the rest of the year, you're not really doing a whole lot. You're just going to be really sore for a few days, and then you're going to be mad and then not go anymore.
Well, that was my plan. That was my 2023 goal, to go to the gym for like a month this year. Folks, we're the Devil's Advocates. I'll be honest. A Tony Evers speech. I may in fact drink or smoke, but it would be to the trigger, legalize marijuana.
Legalize marijuana in the budget, and I won't sign a budget without it. There you go, Tony. That's what I want to hear.
Do you think he'd make a strong pledge like that?
I hope he does make a strong pledge, and I hope he sticks by it.
I'm not going to hold my breath. Come back with us. The Devil's Advocates radio show. You can join us. You playing a drinking game tonight? You got to listen right here on the Civic Media Network. Tony Evers, State of the State, a special edition. Bonus Devils, 3 hours. All we require is all three. Come back.
Wake up and text and eat. Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey. Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Charged, never convicted. The Devil's Advocates.
Jim Santel for just a few more minutes. As you point out, this is a civil trial, not a criminal trial. Do you think that the Trump org will end up with the death penalty under New York law?
Letitia James, she's doing the civil case, right? This is a criminal matter.
Oh, it is. So I misunderstood.
It is, yes.
Normally I leave the being wrong to Dom.
Right.
Listen Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. for the Devil's Advocates radio show.
Ready for our little forest adventure?
Yes!
There's a forest closer than you think. Find a park or forest near you and music inspired by nature at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by USDA Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Fear you may be missing out? We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. Enjoy listening live or catch up by finding the podcast at civicmedia.us or wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Lows dip down to about 26 tonight. Under overcast skies, southeasterly winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Cloudy skies expected tomorrow. Snow showers likely at times. Highs level off around 32. Chance of snow showers again tomorrow night. Lows level off around 24. Overcast skies. 1 to 2 inches of snow tomorrow through tomorrow night. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 31 degrees.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open. We can take your calls at 844-967-2789. Earl Ingram going to join us at the bottom of the hour.
Dominic, I was concerned the audience couldn't hear you. Sexy and sweet sounding like I do.
Right.
I would perceive that as perhaps the greatest show ever.
Oh, come on, you miss me when I'm gone, man.
I do. Audience less so, but I do. You're a present. It's like a presence, like a poltergeist.
My presence is a present. You're welcome.
Thank you. And you can join us. Be a part. 844-967-2789. State of the State. Tony Evers. Again, I think this is an important speech. I think that these opportunities that present to politicians to make an impression, I did check down. There are no conflicting Badger games or Marquette games, no reschedules, no sports conflicts. Packers have been done a couple weeks. There's no conflicting, playoff games or Monday night or Tuesday night football or anything of the sort. So Tony Evers has your attention for one day this year. Today's that day. And he's got a speech to give. And he needs to deliver. Don't you think, Tom? I mean, does it matter? If Tony gives a terrible speech, does that matter? I'd like to think he's practicing, polishing up, putting a shine on it.
Tony is Tony. He is not a great orator, so it's not going to be a Barack Obama speech, right? But the topics is what matters, and how we're going to and what we're going to do with the budget surplus. So what are we going to do with abortion? Where do we stand on that in the state?
Legalize marijuana, drink
policy, right? Exactly. So I fully expect Tony to be Tony, because Tony is Tony, and these things aren't necessarily, I don't know, listened to a whole lot. We're in it. We do this. This is kind of our gig, but most people are not into it. So unless there's something that they're very interested in specifically hearing about, unless they happen to be flipping through all the civic media stations as they're driving through the state of Wisconsin, I don't expect a huge audience for Tony.
Oh, man. You're taking all the luster off the special event. Then you and I, Dom.
Yes.
We will be the party. We'll be the party the people need, Dom. And we'll get our buddy Earl Ingram involved. And we'll get Ben Wikler, the Democratic Party chair, great state of Wisconsin, involved in the happy hour. And we'll get our pal, Pat Krietlow from Up North News, former state senator Pat Krietlow, I might add.
Yes, that matters.
He's been sat through
He's been through it.
The states.
Like us, but in a different capacity.
Pat's going to join us in the bonus third hour coverage at about 6:05. And then Todd Allbaugh is going to take us at like 6:50. Lead us all the way up to the live coverage of the big event. But Tom, let me ask you. What's Mike Pence doing with classified documents at his house? I mean, I know it's kind of off the state trail, but I got to tell you, that headline should be leading the day. Former vice president has classified documents at personal residence, in this case in Indiana, not Delaware. But what the hell is going on, man? Do they all do it? Do they all just take... Dom, you theorized before we went on the air.
I got a thought about
What's your theory?
I think in some ways, sad Mike Pence, also known formerly as Hang Mike Pence, feels like he's missing out. He sees all the attention that the former president Trump continues to get from Jack Smith, the DOJ, for his possession of these documents and that whole story. He sees the current president, Joe Biden, drip, 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 few documents here, few documents there. Well, he wants to get in on the game, man. He feels he can be presidential too if he holds on to some documents and lets people know. So this is Mike Pence showing the world he is presidential material.
Kind of sad. Hashtag sad. Jeannie from Eau Claire, never sad when you join us. Welcome, Jeannie.
Hey, Jeannie.
Guys. Hey, I'm looking forward to your coverage tonight. I think you guys will do an outstanding job. it'll make this beach even greater than it is. So thank you guys for covering it, and I'm going to be listening.
The
So
story's
thank you
all in the
guys.
telling, but before we let you go, Jeannie, will you have a couple of sips of an adult beverage, and will there be a trigger word? You know, pick your word, Jeannie. What are you going to drink? Even if it's a glass of milk or coffee or whatever, what are you drinking, Jeannie?
Well, I hate to disappoint you guys, but I have notebooks full of information that, as an older person, I write down what's been said, and so that I remember the points. And so even I write down, you guys give such great information. So I will be taking notes. I don't have time to drink. This is too gall darn important. So thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening, Jeannie. Always appreciate your calls. You know, Dom has binders full of women.
That's not
Oh, was
true.
that Mitt Romney?
That was Mitt Romney, yes.
Oh, okay. That was, who am I thinking of? Joe from college?
Oh, man. Thank you for the call, Gina. Earl Ingram, our pal, coming up next. The heavy topics, Crudy. What's yours, man? What do you want to hear? What have we missed besides deficit and abortion and weed? What are the other things that you think should be brought up today?
I think Tony Evers should front and center on abortion policy. I think he'll have a smirking Robin Voss over his shoulder, and Speaker Pro Temp Tyler August, or whatever his name is, big-headed guy. Not that I'm one to talk, but I mean, this guy.
It kind of reminds me of your head.
It's large. It's ginormous. And what I would say, giving back the surplus or some portion thereof, what the spending priorities are, well, that's important. But I think that Tony Evers should accentuate the bounce back grants given all across Main Streets, all across the state of Wisconsin. Such a better plan than giving $4.5 billion to a foreign corporation that never bothered doing anything in the state of Wisconsin except taking the money. Come back, more Devils with Earl Ingram.
Holy mackerel, folks. Let's get to work.
With better reception than the new tinfoil hat, why listen to any other station? 92.7 FM and WGTN 1580 AM, Madison's home for Devil Radio.
ABC News, I'm Morgan Norwood. The White House is again calling on Congress to ban assault-style weapons in the wake of 3 mass shootings in California in just 3 days. Nationwide, there have been more than 36 mass shootings just this year. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre noted another statistic.
Over the last 2 decades, more school-age children have died from guns than on-duty police officer and active duty military combined.
Police in Monterey Park, California say they are still searching for a motive in the ballroom shooting that killed 11 people. And authorities in Half Moon Bay say the mass shooting that killed 7 was due to workplace violence. ABC News has learned a dozen documents marked classified were found at the Indiana home of former Vice President Mike Pence. The material has been turned over to the FBI. The Senate Judiciary Committee held a hearing into the botched Ticketmaster presale for Taylor Swift's concert tour and whether the concert company's dominance violates antitrust rules. This is ABC News.
Miss your favorite show? Find our entire podcast library at devilradio927.com.
I'm Terry Bell. Here's what you need to know. Police say they can't explain why it was such an unusually violent weekend in Milwaukee. 18 people were shot between Friday and yesterday morning. 2 teenagers died. At least one of the shootings was a triple shooting. Mayor Cavalier Johnson is calling on neighborhood leaders to help calm the violence. Wisconsin lawmakers are thinking of using some of the state's nearly $7 billion budget surplus to help communities with PFAS in their water, known as forever chemicals. One idea is to bolster a program aimed at helping low and middle-class homeowners with contaminated private wells. In sports, the Bucks beat Detroit last night 150-130. The Badgers lost to Northwestern 66-63. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM, WGTN 1580 AM.
What are the governor's priorities for Wisconsin? Tony Evers will lay out his second-term plans during his State of the State address January 24th. You can hear it live on your local Civic Media radio station. Will abortion rights, Medicaid expansion, and legalizing marijuana be the top issues? Your favorite hosts also provide insight by breaking down the governor's address. The State of the State address live Tuesday, January 24th at 7 p.m. here on your local Civic Media radio station, streaming on the Civic Media app.
Hey folks, Stephanie Miller here. As an enlightened progressive, you know how important it is to do business in accordance with your politics. That's why Solidarity Realty is my favorite real estate firm in Madison. Solidarity Realty is a local independent realty company that lives their values. They provide outstanding expertise and protect your best interests while building community and promoting sustainability and diversity. Vive la resistance! Find them today at solidarityrealty.com. And don't forget, tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then, you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page, or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress. But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
Join me, Stephanie Miller, and the entire Sexy Liberal Resistance every morning from 8 to 11 for the Stephanie Miller Show right here on 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. Listen live Monday through Friday on Devil Radio, Wisconsin's home for progressive news talk radio.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. It's not just a plain old Tuesday edition. It's special. Special coverage up to Tony Evers, Democratic governor, state of Wisconsin. State of the State address at 7 p.m. Got team coverage going on right here at Civic Media. And we got our pal, Earl Ingram Jr. from the Earl Ingram Show joining us right now. Welcome back, Earl. How you doing, fella?
Hey, Earl.
I'm doing fine. How you doing, Dominic?
I'm awesome, dude. Good to hear from you, man.
You know, Earl,
Good to hear from you, my friend.
much like the governor, you don't even acknowledge that Crudy exists on the radio, man. Why does Tony give you a call and join you, but not the greatest, some say the greatest radio show ever. I know your wife is fond of the Earl show, but apparently so's the governor.
Maybe Earl is maybe a little nicer when he has the Ask Crudy.
I won't even respond to that.
Right. It's all right, Earl. You don't got to respond, man. Thanks for coming around, man.
Earl, the governor's got a big speech going on tonight. What could he do for you, Earl Ingram, as a voter, as a politically active guy? What do you want to see from the governor? What should he be talking about tonight, to your opinion?
Well, the one of the reasons that people in the city of Milwaukee voted for Governor Evers, especially people of color, is because Governor Evers has realized that there's some things going on in the state that haven't been right. There's some areas in the city of Milwaukee and some suffering that's been going on for a long time. And Governor Evers has been the kind of guy who is, even in the face of all the criticism, he's been willing to stand forward, stand straight, and disavow all of the negative things that he's heard mentioned about what he does, and he's put resources into a community that needed them the worst. And it's almost like he himself has stood up to the bullies like Robin Voss and others who have made it almost impossible for the city of Milwaukee and the people of this city and the taxpayers to be able to fend for themselves. And so the governor is the kind of person who has been willing to fight that and, in spite of all the criticism, do what is right.
Earl, Governor Tony Evers, through a lot of federal funding, has chosen to put a lot of money in small business owners' pockets. When they opened up a new location on Main Street or a larger location, but when they rented a vacant storefront on Main Street, Wisconsin, they were eligible for a $10,000 grant. $100 million in funding was dispersed, last I checked, to over 6,600 local small Wisconsin businesses. As an example, Earl, I was in Amory, Wisconsin. There is no available real estate on Main Street in Amory. It's all been gobbled up. I talked to the local, the partnership, the business partnership running this grant in this town. 35 different grants had been promoted and given in Amory, Wisconsin, a town of like 2,500. That's a lot, Earl. That's a lot of little businesses opening shop on Main Street. And I don't know that the Democratic governor takes enough credit. He's got to get out. Tonight is his night to brag. If nothing else, Earl, brag about this, Tony. You did it absolutely right.
Crudy, that's not who he is. That's not in him. He is the most vanilla guy that I think I've ever met who's reached the level that he's reached. He is not a guy who's a pat on the back kind of guy. What does he say? Shucks, golly gee, oh wow.
Right.
That's real. That's who he is, man. He can't be anybody other than that. And I think in an environment where people like to brag about what they've done, he's not that kind of a guy. He's not going to brag about that. He's just going to get it done.
Earl, it's not just about bragging about what you've done. We got politicians that brag about what they haven't done. Hell, some get elected lying about their entire background. So having a guy like Tony Evers is a refreshing change, of course. The gun violence, Earl, we just had another tough weekend here in Milwaukee, like 18 people shot, a couple of teenage kids shot dead. And certainly this is not alone here in Milwaukee. All over the country, the gun violence continues to rage. Do you expect, or would you like to hear Governor Evers propose something, address something, do something about the prevalent gun violence that we're dealing with?
Dominic, I talked about this on my show this morning because it hits you really hard when 8 teenagers were shot over the weekend, and two who lost their lives. And all the governor can do is suggest that there's something that needs to be done about the easy accessibility of weapons. There's still a continued battle with the gun show loophole, and you got to ask the question. We know that there's a gun show loophole that makes it easier for the accessibility of guns in communities like mine. And yet, we can't get it done. Why can't they get that done, Dominic? And so he can talk about it, but he's not going to get anybody to come along with him from the legislature on the right.
Yeah.
Who are going to do what is necessary to get it repaired. He can scream from the top of the mountain.
But I think he has to, though, Earl. If nothing else, to browbeat them and shame them into some sort of action. There are little steps that can be taken that the Republicans should be down with.
Dominic, I agree. You and I would handle it the way you just said it.
Yeah.
But that's not who this man is. And you would think that after all of these things, Dominic and Crudy, that this would be a perfect time. I would be rubbing their noses in it. I mean, I'm sorry. And I know the both of you would too. And there are times when that needs to happen. And right now is the time that it needs to happen. All of this, we have to work together, foolishness. Yeah, well, he's been trying to work with them for how long now? So it's time to push back hard. But he's just not going to do that.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. At least lie to us, Earl. Tell us, I hope he does it. I think he's capable. He might do it. At least give us a little glimmer of hope, for Christ's sake.
Right.
Let me ask you. Here, whether his words are as forceful as, a couple of radio guys might like or not, Earl. Here's what I think he does, the governor needs to talk about. Abortion. The fact that abortion is illegal in the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And Earl, I think that it will be the issue of the moment. Tony gives this speech really heading into the spring primary and soon a spring general election. I think that abortion's got to be front and center. And when Robin Vos makes a proposal like, if Tony would just compromise and continue to allow abortion to be illegal, but some modest exception for rape or incest, come be a moderate like me, says Robin Vos. Earl, how does Tony make abortion a speech issue, but also an electoral issue? Because we're in an election cycle right now.
So you couldn't find an easier question to ask, huh? Crudy, I'll tell you something, man. Tony Evers and the abortion issue, he's not unmindful that is one of the reasons why he got reelected. So he definitely is going to bring that to bear. Whether or not Tony Evers is going to convince you and me and others that he can really force the Republican Party to accept that they did the wrong thing and maybe acquiesced and go along with what anybody with common sense who had taken the beatings that the Republicans took in the midterms would certainly realize this is the time we made a mistake. Let's move forward. They're not going to do it, and I don't think Governor Evers is going to push the envelope other than to say a few things. He knows that that's one of the main reasons he got reelected, Crudy and Dominic, and I just don't see that in him. He's not the kind of guy who is going to rub anybody's noses in it. I agree with you that this is a victory lap time. All of us would be taking a victory lap. And what I know about the governor, man, it's not in him. Crudy, it's not in him.
I know, man. I know, Earl. I know. It's not in him, but put the words on the teleprompter and hope that he can deliver them. It's important for him to talk about these things, Earl. It's important. We are literally in an election cycle that could change the balance of the Wisconsin Supreme Court.
Oh, it's a Supreme Court.
And
You're
right.
that
a speech like tonight's speech is as much about the political theatrics in the chamber. Earl, I don't know. I don't recall if you ever joined me and Dom in the chamber for a governor's speech,
Never.
But it's very much like the State of the Union address. He says something and one side of the chamber's all cheering and clapping, and then he'll say something else. And then the other side, usually sarcastically, will cheer and clap like, oh, we finally got around to acknowledging one of our policy priorities. But it's very theatrical. And knowing that it's theatrical, I wish Tony would just take this opportunity. Like the old teacher he is. I mean, you got in front of the classroom, you're putting on a little bit of theatrics. You want to keep these kids' attention, you better put on a little entertainment, right? You do a radio show, Earl. It's Earl plus a little entertainment. Tony Evers, man, do a little, come on, do it radio style, make it entertaining. Make some good radio on the radio tonight, Tony.
Let me see if I have this right. Crudy is asking for Governor Evers to bring some excitement and energy and to a speech. Let's see, what are the chances of that happening? Dominic,
you're going to suck all the life and energy out of this guy. Come on, just tell me there's a chance, Earl.
Zero chance.
Thank you. All the listeners, please tune in. There's a 0% chance you'll be
Well, there's delivery and then there's content, Earl, and I get it. I mean, I get Crudy's bluster. You wanna have something to talk about, something to get some sound bites on. But it's going to be holy mackerel, and it might be a BS. But there are, this is the state of the state. This, he's the governor, and he needs to deliver and inform the Wisconsin citizens as to what it is that he's doing, what it is he wants to do, what it is that the Republicans have done, are doing, are trying to do in the future, and justify and explain, hey, this is why you elected me. And help me help you. You know what I'm saying? I don't expect an Obama speech, Earl, but certainly I'm looking for some good content, if nothing else.
Well, how about why can't we just get along?
Why can't we, like Rodney King style? Because Robin Voss might literally come out like the cops in the Rodney King beating and beat poor Tony Evers right in the assembly chamber. That's why, Earl, help me help Earl. Tune in to the Earl Ingram Show. He's all across the Civic Media Network, 8 to 11 a.m., originating from WAUK. He's on WISS Oshkosh Air Support, and also newly WGBW. I was listening to you in Green Bay earlier today, Earl. You sounded sexy in the morning, my friend.
Dominic, how do I respond to that?
Just say thank you.
Thank you, Earl Ingram. Keep it locked. More of the Devil's Advocates. Phone lines open. 844-967-2789.
Thanks, Earl.
I'm 54, so it's too late to start saving for retirement, right?
Not right. Starting to save even in your 50s can really make a difference. At aceyourretirement.org, in just 3 minutes, you'll get a free personalized retirement plan. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
The radio show your mother warned you about.
Actual tyranny of a dictator. Dictator's going to dictate Putin. And what did Trump do? Trump kneeled to the man. Embarrassing Republicans, and you're still with the guy. This is your front runner in 2024. You've been smoking some of Mike Lindell's crack. What are you thinking?
They're the GCCCP. We are the Devil's Advocates.
Live weekday afternoons from 3 to 6.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
I'm 54, so it's too late to start saving for retirement, right?
Not right. Starting to save even in your 50s can really make a difference. At aceyourretirement.org, in just 3 minutes, you'll get a free personalized retirement plan. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Lows level off around 26 tonight. Under cloudy skies, winds out of the southeast, 5 to 10 miles an hour. Cloudy skies expected again tomorrow. Snow showers likely at times. Highs level off around 32. Chance of snow showers again tomorrow night. Lows around 24. 1 to 2 inches of snow tomorrow through tomorrow night, with another inch Friday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 31 degrees.
The big and tall of political talk. The Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. You can join us on the phones at 844-967-2789. We'll get you in now before the top of the hour when Ben Wikler, the chair of the Democratic Party of the state of Wisconsin, going to join us on the lines.
And don't forget to thank our good buddy Earl Ingram for joining us here on the big show. His big show, each weekday morning, originating from WAUK 540 AM, 8 to 11 AM, playing out in Oshkosh and Green Bay and worldwide on the Civic Media app. You got so many choices. And we, the fine host of this program, we're going to take you all the way up to Tony Evers' State of the State address. I just heard Earl say it's going to be a barn burner.
Is that what he said?
Something like that. I think he didn't want to be as optimistic as I am about Tony's presentation tonight, but I'm telling you, it's going to be damn dynamic, or I'll get drunk trying. 844-967-2789. I understand this is the original Claire from Baraboo. How you doing, Claire?
Hey, Claire.
Hi, devils.
Oh, Claire, what's going on? Where have you been, sister? We were talking about you recently. We miss you.
Oh, my ears must have been burning. I know, I miss you guys too.
Why don't you ever come see us? You've been listening, I hope.
I've been trying.
Well,
signal's a little iffy up here.
Not on the Civic Media app. Get the new app. Take it anywhere, even behind the bluff.
I'm a Luddite, baby.
You're a what's that?
I'm a Luddite.
A Luddite?
Yeah.
Does that mean you're from Lodi? What are you telling me, Claire?
I don't do the social media stuff.
Oh, okay.
Well, a little behind, a little slow on the tech side. That's all right, Claire. The phone works. We're on the radio. All the good stuff works.
So what do you got for us today, Claire? Been far too long, but give us a political thought, or at least a topic you're going to drink on during Tony's speech tonight.
Well, I'm tied between abortion and guns for the drinking issue. But what I'd like to hear him say is what a lion sack of you-know-what the Republicans are. But I don't think I'd get to drink if, he's not going to say that.
If he does, I'm chugging, Claire, because that would be fantastic, because it would be so true. It's so true, these Republicans. I mean, everything they do with this whole Gableman. I mean, what they put Wisconsin through with Trump and Gableman and this election thing, and it's still there. I mean, it's still haunting us. It is still a cancer upon our democracy, Claire.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
I just read an article today that Scott Walker, I hate to bring that up, but
Wanker.
Scott Walker cost Wisconsin Snot Walker cost Wisconsin roughly $800 million when he wouldn't do the train to Madison.
Oh, and by the time we got stuck paying Talgo $50 million after the court settlement, his whole complaint was $22 million, I believe, in over a decade, like $2 million a year. That would have been what the state could theoretically have been on the hook for long-term maintenance. The state gave back almost $1 billion. It cost us like $50 million in lawsuits so that we could not pay $2 million a year for 10 years and modernize our infrastructure to the 21st century. And then he followed that up with Foxconn. Wanker.
Correct. Yes, and may I point out
I miss that guy.
Good old Foxconn is in Robin Voss's district, don't forget.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Isn't that ironic? Hey, Claire, great to hear from you once again. Stay in touch, and we'll let you know when we come rolling around Madison Baraboo again. Miss you, sister. Take care. 844-967-2789.
A programming note, sometime later this spring, Claire, we've got a better signal for our friends in your direction coming. So hang in there. And in the meantime, get the Civic Media app, or if you have to, WTTN 1580 AM. It's a fine signal. You can hear us there. You can hear us there at Baraboo, Claire. I know you can. Tune us in. Except at dark. Then it gets dark.
It gets dark early, man. Dick from Madison, you will be next. Welcome, Dick. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dick.
Cripes, guys.
Golly gee, Willikers.
Shucks.
Yeah, Cripes was a guy I worked for that was from Edgar, Wisconsin, up by Wausau. You go, oh, Cripes all the time. But,
Yeah or no?
No, we can't. Yeah, we just can't expect it, like Earl said, because the other thing about him is, at his age, and that's not a big deal, he's in great shape and all that good stuff, but he has no political aspirations on being governor of this state, like many other governors would, that got, national ideas. So, he's going to keep it local, and it's going to be pretty low key, I'm thinking. But, I wish it was different too. We all do, but I agree with Earl. It's probably going to be pretty anticlimactic. I mean,
you don't think it's going to be a Marxist woke agenda that Tony puts forward?
No.
Well, they'll call it that, Dick, but it won't be.
He'll be advocating for critical race theory and
no, it won't be a Ron DeSantis type speech. It's just not going to.
And that's okay. Dick, I mean, that is totally fine. I'm okay not having the fascist Ron DeSantis type of speech. The Mussolini speeches don't work with me, man.
I don't need that.
No.
Didn't Wikler give a speech in 2015 when he was about to pivot and run for the president, and he said freedom like 32 times in like a 15-minute speech? I remember another one where he gave a speech in like 15 minutes because the Badgers were tipping off and he wanted to get the hell out of there.
Do it quick.
I'm thinking, you want to get out of there. The entire state of Wisconsin wants you to get the hell out of there and let us watch the Badger game. No Badgers tonight. 844.
No reason not to listen.
967-2789. We're going to make it easy on the Civic Media app. Claire, you can take it anywhere in the great United States. But Ron, quick one before the break. Welcome to the show, Ron, from Milwaukee. What do you got?
Hey, Ron.
Yeah. Hi. Just a quick note on Claire's Luddite comment. The Luddites were from Scandinavia, I think, in the 1800s or something like that. And they opposed mechanization. They were afraid of, which is a good thing if you think about it, that they were going to lose their jobs, in these mills and everything. So what they did was the workers at those mills would show up with their wooden shoes and clogged the gears with their wooden shoes, and they were the Luddites. And I would like to think progressives are Luddites when it comes to being cautious about technology, but Republicans are Luddites when it becomes cautious, when they want to become cautious about democracy.
Ain't that the truth,
Look
Ron?
at our audience teaching us stuff.
I love it.
The Luddites, original, fighting against the machine. Like literally, apparently, with clogs. Come back, Ben Wikler, Democratic Party of Wisconsin chair, and us, the Devils, and you.
Hey, Brad from Zero Res Madison here. What's the best way to clean your carpet? Well, not surprisingly, it's the same way you clean your clothes. You wouldn't clean a dirty shirt by running a white cloth over the top of it, nor would you try to get it clean by sprinkling chemicals and rubbing it in. For a real clean, you need hot water, agitation, and a cleaning agent, just like your laundry. For a fresh, healthy clean with no residue, call Zero Res Madison or schedule online. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
Missed your favorite show live on air? It's easy to find what you enjoy wherever you listen to podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. And we're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app.
We've all felt left out. And for people who move to this country, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Civic Media app.
ABC News, I'm Derek Dennis. California communities are trying to recover from 3 mass shootings in 3 days. Police say the shooting in Half Moon Bay that killed 7 people was a case of workplace violence.
Notifying the dead's next of kin is complicated in San Mateo County.
Check. Yeah, I'm just looking at this thing, man. I'm just trying to mess around and see what. I mean, obviously we're still on the Zoom. I'm just. It was weird because looking at my audio Zoom settings, when Crudy would talk, I'd actually see levels on mine, like I was talking, which I don't know why that would be. When we were on the Comrec, so I'm not clear. I guess I don't.
Yours as well.
Well, I see my levels, my input mic, but I just changed it to.
You would see him as well. See, and that's what I meant by mix minus. Like normally, for more complicated setups like this, since both sides have to process all the sound, you sort of subtract the stuff that originates. You know, like Your sound gets subtracted. You're not trying to process Crudy's sound, so that gets subtracted. Like you're just trying to hear. The output and input are separated. Talking to Brian, he was sort of on the road on the move. I get the impression that he set something up for tonight and something got switched. Because we did this last night, literally.
Yeah, but last night we would never have known that I wasn't going out in Waukesha, so that might not be the thing, right?
No, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
But didn't we use it last night?
No.
We were on Zoom yesterday?
We did Zoom yesterday, and we tested it after the show.
Okay. Maybe that's why I was feeling insane, because I'm like, we just used it.
I know we've been doing
that makes more sense.
So whatever, man. I mean, I'm down. I just get the feeling that when we were setting up the Zoom because of the Comrex and with this other gear, that it was more than just, the one bar. I have a feeling that there was some more clicks going on. It wasn't that easy. So to go back to it, I feel like we would have to, kind of do that again, but I don't know what that would be.
I mean, the fact that they can't hear you in Waukesha leads me to believe it sort of relies on the fact that our signal, what we send to Waukesha and what we send to air is the same thing, right? So that's why we need that mix minus, because or else you're getting the air feed on top of your input. When you talk, you get right back what's going over the air. So we need to isolate that so you can hear the feed without, without doubling up like that. Because that would have been horrible, man. Like 38 minutes.
Right. All right. Well, I mean, we're on the Zoom, and we've been doing this, so that's fine.
It sounds great. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, is Brian? Did he give any indication he was going to relook at it again, or what do we?
Yes. In fact, he was headed back right now. I don't know if he's headed back here or Waukesha. And then I'm also on call. If he needs me to do anything, I'm ready to rock.
All right. Well, I'll just wait. I was asking because I would text him otherwise, but I won't bother him if you already had the discussion.
That's how I feel, man. It's like I wait for Armageddon before I text Brian.
Right. All right, cool, dude.
All right, man.
Thanks.
And still growing Civic Media network of radio stations, it's time to do something really big. How does $1 million advertising giveaway sound to you? Our celebration is your chance to work with Civic Media's amazing sales team, creating a radio advertising campaign promoting your business for free. Save the date. The $1 million advertising giveaway is only happening on Thursday, January 26th. Full details on our website, civicmedia.us/million.
10 years ago, we opened with a single location. We had one glass blower, that's me, and a full display of artistically created glass pipes and products. Today, you've helped us grow to 3 successful locations. Ignite Glass and Gifts thanks you for your continued support. We'll be here as long as you need us. Madison's favorite for glass gifts and bait. Ignite Glass and Gifts, Monona Drive, Williamson Street, and Odana Road. 1 solid decade. Man, does that feel good.
Looking for a post-holiday sale? We've got one for you at Ula Eyewear. The team is here to help you find stylish frames at great prices during our big winter sale. Thursday, January 26th through Sunday, January 29th, hundreds of in-stock frames and sunglasses are 15 to 50% off. Need more than one pair? The more you buy, the bigger you save on frames and lenses. So don't miss the big winter sale, January 26th through the 29th at Ula Eyewear, Hilldale Shopping Center, Madison.
I'm Deborah Green, a Midwest girl born and raised. I began my career as a social worker, and now I serve as a permanent substitute teacher with a school in Wisconsin. My work with students and youth spans over 30 years. After listening to me talk about my vision for young people, others know how passionate I am about their success. Students are capable of taking on the world and doing something with it. So let's talk about it. Straight talk, no chaser, good people. Enjoy kicking it in the kitchen with me, Deborah Green.
Hey, this is Jim Santel. I am the host of Morning Cannolis. Every single Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., we talk about the major stories in law, in government, and the aspiration for justice in America. Delighted to have you join, call in, and be a part of our discussion right here on the networks of Civic Media.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Kroot.
Welcome back to the Tuesday edition of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Not just any old Tuesday, Dom. It's a happy hour all the way up to Tony Evers' State of the State address. We're bringing it to you right here on Civic Media, and we got a fine guest right now. He is the Democratic Party chair, great state of Wisconsin. See, I'm excited about this. A big deal. Tonight's a big deal. Ben Wikler, he's a big deal. Welcome back. Our friend Ben. How's it going, man?
Hey, Ben.
So good to be with you, Dom, Kroot. This is a big day. This is the state of the state, the calm before the state of the state. But tonight, the legislature will be packed with almost a supermajority of Republicans in each chamber, but not quite enough, which means if the governor vetoes something, it stays vetoed, which means Republicans actually have to play ball, which means, this is a moment when there might actually be some governing for once. And it's really exciting that it's Governor Evers delivering the speech and not Tim Michaels, who I can imagine what it would be like if we were preparing for his.
Well, we would have a different coverage plan in place. I feel quite confident, Ben. Let's talk about the governor's speech. Ben, this is a political cycle. It's already a spring elective cycle. Does the governor have any responsibility to point that out? Is simply talking about the fact that abortion is illegal in the state of Wisconsin? What role do you think Tony, the politician, has tonight?
Well, Tony is suing working with our attorney general to strike down this ridiculous, misbegotten 174-year-old abortion ban that we have in the state of Wisconsin. Now, I think if you look fairly at the law, the ban should not be in effect. And that's the governor's view as well. But, right now, you can't finish training as an OBGYN because you can't learn to deliver care for miscarriages because physicians are afraid they'll be thrown in jail for doing basic medical care. So we have a crisis in healthcare in our state. The governor's very passionate about this. And the legislature, honestly, should codify Roe versus Wade, without waiting for the Supreme Court. But if they are not willing to do that, he's taking this to the court. And, if we win on April 4th, especially, and have Supreme Court justices who aren't just carrying water for Right to Life Wisconsin, there's a real chance that the abortion ban could be struck down and we could actually have men and women and anyone who can have a kid could be a first-class citizen again.
Well, we know that these sort of events can devolve into political kabuki theater. And we know that Robin Vos is going to be looking over Tony's shoulder, over the governor's shoulder. And when he starts talking about abortion, the histrionics are going to be in full effect, I would predict. And Vos acts like carving out some sort of legislative exception, not for legalized abortion in the state of Wisconsin, but for, rape and incest survivors. Well, if Tony doesn't come to him, then he acts like Tony's some sort of radical. Well, the state of Wisconsin is with Tony Evers on this. People want this right reinstated under state law. Do you turn around and look at Robin Vos and say the people are with me on this? How do you bring it home, Ben, theatrically?
I mean, I think it's going to be pretty clear. This is the guy who tripled his margin of victory from 2018 to 2022. He is coming in with a mandate. Robin Vos is a kind of a spent force. He's presiding over a Republican Party that is hopelessly divided at this point, in a party where only one Republican is announced for president. Donald Trump, and that is who Robin Vos said he will devote himself to ensuring is not his party's nominee. So, you can already see in the kind of body language and the political posturing, the Republicans know that they can't hold the charade of pretending that Evers hasn't won anymore. That's why all these Republicans who stayed on in appointed positions have now stepped down because they realized they couldn't just wait for another Republican to come along. And Evers is going to lay out a plan. We have almost $7 billion in surplus. It's a record high. So he's going to say, let's fund our public schools. Let's cut taxes for the middle class. Let's get money to cities and towns and counties and villages. And those are things that have overwhelming public support, massive public support. And, Republicans who spent the last year screaming about defunding the police now have to look in the mirror and realize they're the ones who've been defunding local services, first responders, and schools and libraries for the last 12 years. So I think Evers is kind of calling their bluff in this moment, and it's exactly the right time to do that. They might be facing actual democracy in 2024 if we get new maps. So if they want to not have to run screaming to the hills away from their own record, this is their chance to actually step up to the moment and make some policy that reflects the things that they've been claiming they stand for a long time, but in fact Democrats have been the champions of.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. That is Ben Wikler. He is the chair of the Democratic Party of the great state of Wisconsin. Ben, thanks for coming around. The Republicans willing to play ball, Ben. It's hard to imagine a better circumstance than what to do with a $7 billion surplus. It's not like you got to come up with, hey, we're in the whole $7 billion. Those are real tough fights. This is a good one. This is one you want to have. And you mentioned a few things: school funding, and perhaps even shared revenue. What do you think would bring Republicans around? Because my impression is that they're more about the politics and the grandstanding than about the actual governance. What do you think would bring the Republicans to the table, specifically regarding the almost $7 billion surplus?
Well, I'll say my hope. My hope is that he wants to cut middle class taxes, and you can do that without blowing a hole in the budget at this moment. My hope is that when Republicans realize that a flat tax that massively raises taxes on working Wisconsinites is off the table, that they say, "Oh, what the hell? Let's do a middle class tax cut and pair that with some school funding." That most Republican in rural areas, the more Republican your area is, the more rural it's likely to be in the state of Wisconsin. And the more rural it is, the less likely there are to be private schools in your area. So it's not like the Republicans are talking about massive expansions of school voucher programs that take money out of the public school system to pay for private schools. And that works great for wealthy Republican donors who live in areas that have expensive private schools they can use their vouchers for. But for most Republican voters and Democratic voters and independent voters and non-voters in the state, they do not live in easy distance of a private school to use a voucher at. So this whole thing it's a ridiculous sop to this kind of far right, very ultra wealthy ideology that says we should dismantle the public school system and shovel money to private schools and even for profit schools. But for most of the state, Republicans, if they go out and say we should cut money for public schools, they will get laughed at. I think that Republican legislators could go home to their districts and say, "Look at this. We made a deal with the governor to cut taxes and fund schools and make sure we don't have to cut back hours in the library and lay off police officers and firefighters." That their constituents would see that as a win. The people of Wisconsin would see that as a win. It's not really a partisan left-right thing. It's really a question of whether Republicans who tried for the last 4 years to stop anything from happening under the Evers administration and failed and just got their butts handed to them in the election, whether they now decide to try a different strategy and actually do something for the people of the state.
Well, that wasn't a uniform decision. Ben Wikler, Democratic Party Wisconsin chairman, Bob Spindell, a Wisconsin elections commissioner, bragged, and you know this, you follow the headlines, bragged about the voter suppressive efforts of Republicans and the 37,000 votes they knocked off between the 2018 midterms and the 2022 midterms. Now, Ben, first and foremost, is there numerical veracity to the assertion that Spindell's making? And above and beyond that, the legislative efforts, the making it harder for drop boxes or eliminating drop boxes, things of that nature, Ben, are they making it harder? Are they suppressing votes, sir?
Republicans are suppressing votes in Wisconsin. There's no question about it. And what's surprising is that they actually admitted to it and talked about it. Wisconsin is the 47th hardest state to vote in the country. We're right near the bottom of the list, sandwiched between Alabama, Texas, Arkansas, and Mississippi. And that is a Republican intentional plan. Their goal is to make it harder, especially for Black people, for Latinos, for young people, for people with disabilities, people that they don't think are going to vote for them. They want to make it so they can't vote at all. And they've done that through their lawsuits, and they've done it through the courts. They've done it through a raft of legislative proposals, investigations, hearings, terrifying local clerks, intimidating people, threatening to jail mayors who tried to make it easier for people to vote. They've done it 6 ways from Sunday. And it's not a surprise that it does have some impact. Now, it doesn't, I don't think, he listed off a whole bunch of things that what Bob Spindell, this Republican fake elector, Wisconsin Elections Commission appointee by the Senate President, Devin LeMahieu, he's one of the top Republicans in the state. And he's bragging about all this voter suppression. He's claiming that the Republican CARES opening storefronts in north and south side of Milwaukee, they're kind of messaging about where they were, it seemed like they were trying to win over votes. He's saying that actually that helped them suppress votes. I don't know whether their plan just didn't work, because they clearly didn't get more votes. They actually lost ground in the margin in Milwaukee. It didn't work at all to persuade people, but fewer people did turn out. So I don't know I'd be surprised if they had some kind of like evil genius plan where those things actually suppress votes. But at a big picture, yeah, this is the Republican strategy, is to stop people from being able to cast ballots, discourage, dismay, disinformation, and legal barriers that make it harder for people to cast ballots. And it's a huge part of what we've got to fight against. We should be a democracy where politicians have to fight for everyone's vote, no matter what they look like, no matter where they live. In that kind of democracy, I think Democrats will win more often. But if we lose, it'll be because we haven't earned the right to get people's support, not because someone has suppressed one vote or the other. It's why we need federal voting rights legislation. It's why we need to win with pro-democracy candidates at every level in the state of Wisconsin.
Ben, short on time, what's the lead for Tony if you wrote his speech?
I mean, I'm pretty excited about what he's going to lay out tonight, and I frankly think this big bargain. We've got this big stack of money, so let's send some of it back to the middle class taxpayers in the state. Let's send some of it to our schools, and let's send some of it to our cities, our townships, our small town governments, the county governments.
Ben, got to cut you short, Santa Claus. Thank you. More Devil's Advocates. We'll be right back.
Thanks, Ben.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force, and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is, my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Matt from Mount Horeb. Welcome, Matt. What do you got for us?
I don't get these people, man. All these teachers are groomers and pedophiles. We need them armed to the teeth. The only way.
Right.
I mean, is your name Jeffrey Lebowski? Because your mind is limber.
Oh,
appreciate you listening.
That's a great point, though. Yes, the teachers, they're the ones doing the indoctrination, right? The teachers are the ones that are woke. Give them guns.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it.
When your kid can't find the language, find the lyrics. Start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Join the conversation with your favorite hosts or shows anytime. Follow Civic Media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Share your thoughts on our social media channels wherever you are, whenever you want. The Civic Media network of local radio stations here for you.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Lows level off around 26 tonight. Under cloudy skies, winds out of the southeast, 5 to 10 miles an hour. Cloudy skies expected again tomorrow. Snow showers likely at times. Highs level off around 32. Chance of snow showers again tomorrow night. Lows around 24. 1 to 2 inches of snow tomorrow through tomorrow night, with another inch Friday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 30 degrees.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin Uprising, the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You can join us on the lines at 844-967-2789.
Always appreciate our good friend Ben Wikler, Democratic Party of Wisconsin chair. Appreciate when he comes round. He's excited, Tom.
I mean,
Tony Evers is going to play Santa Claus. I mean, at least he's playing the part. At least he's getting Crudy fired up for the, we're doing 3 hours of special coverage up to the Civic Media live coverage of the Tony Evers, Democratic governor of the state of Wisconsin speech. So, if we're going to do all this, man, he better put out a barn burner for them. It's going to be ginormous. I feel the audience tonight going to be bigger than Speaker Pro Tem Tyler August's head.
Nice.
Huge.
But I appreciate Ben's perspective, certainly. And he's done a great job for the Democratic Party here in the state of Wisconsin. And I said it, and he referenced it again as we were wrapping up the segment. There's not going to be a more amiable, economic situation than what we have right now for R's and D's and everyone to come together to try to figure out what to do with the surplus. I mean, almost $7 billion. I mean, these are great times. This should be an opportunity to work together to solve all sorts of, everyone's got their Santa list, right? Everyone has something on that list that they want. We should be able to check off some of those things. And with regards to the school voucher thing, and I want to throw this out there, it's not just for-profit schools. It's religious indoctrination as well. Many of these schools are religious based, and it just happens to be over the last 20 years. Well, the tithing has gone down quite a bit. So what have they done to backfill the bank account? Well, hell, school vouchers. So it's more than just for profit. It's also the religious indoctrination part that I take specific exception with.
Dominic, we got people listening all around the world right now. If you are especially interested in this sure to be dynamic speech of Governor Tony Evers, don't forget, stick around. Special live extended coverage. In the next big hour, we got Pat Krietlow. He's one of the fine hosts of the Civic Media Network from the Up North News, and also Todd Allbaugh, the Todd Allbaugh Show. He's going to anchor the coverage along with our news director, Terry Bell, at the Wisconsin Assembly Chambers. The speech goes off a little after 7. Crudy and Dom go off at like 6:59. Listen until then. But Dom, I want to turn my attention to the imminent charging decision according to the Georgia DA. I'm watching really close. We talked about this leading into today. Today was the hearing in Fulton County, Georgia. And Faudy Willis has got a big decision. And Don, we got a little bit of the coverage here for our fair audience. A Georgia prosecutor investigating whether former President Trump and his allies broke any laws as they sought to influence the outcome of the 2020 election has asked a judge to keep sealed a grand jury report detailing the probe, saying charging decisions for multiple people are imminent.
Imminent decisions, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to charge. I can make a charging decision. A not to charge is a charging decision.
Well, Dom, let me read on from the coverage at thehill.com. The probe, led by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, comes in response to Trump's phone call to Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, shortly before the January 6, 2021, asking him to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have. What he meant is one more than I would need to beat Joe Biden in the state of Georgia. The report is expected to include recommendations to Willis on whether to charge Trump.
Do it.
Yes, do it. To charge Trump and others involved in numerous actions, including a plot to send so-called alternative electors for the state, which President Biden won. Now, we had a similar parallel plot, fraudulent plot, and Bob Spindell, the aforementioned Wisconsin elections commissioner, he was one of the alleged criminals that was part of that plot.
Parallel plot. I mean, part of the conspiracy. One of the spokes in the wheel. This was part of it.
Well, we're talking about Georgia for the short run, Dom, so let's get back to Georgia. Jurors involved in crafting the report have previously determined it should be released to the public. Do it! But the final decision over whether to do so rests with Fulton County Superior Court Judge Robert McBurney. Come on, McBurney, who will weigh whether to do so and if any redactions are necessary to disclose the document. I've still never seen the unredacted Mueller report, but here's the important part. Willish cautioned the court against imminently releasing the report, saying it could impact the right of numerous defendants.
Numerous?
A fair trial. I quote her, "We have to be mindful of protecting future defendants' rights." Doesn't sound like she's not charging anyone, does it?
No.
And so what the state does not want to see happen, and don't think that there's any way that the court would be able to guarantee, is that if that report was released, that somehow could be arguments made that it impacts the right for later individuals, multiple, to get a fair trial, to have a fair hearing, to be able to be tried in this jurisdiction. Willis said at the outset of the hearing, decisions are imminent. I like that.
Curdy McBurney did not make an immediate ruling from the bench and said he expected to send additional questions to lawyers for both the state and the media, which on Tuesday argued in favor of releasing the documents. Yeah, that's us, Curdy. We're media. Release the hounds. Release the documents. Even some redactions, I guess, would be acceptable. But most importantly, Fonnie Willis, if you find the evidence, please indict quickly.
Don't forget, attorneys for Trump yesterday said we can assume the grand jury did their job and looked at the facts and the law, as we have, and concluded there were no violations of the law by President Trump. Why? Because they didn't interview the man. I would say that's because he's the prime suspect.
He's the target. Yeah, right.
Until trial before, it's his right whether or not he wants to testify at that late hour.
He can take the stand and testify at trial. He can say everything he wants.
He testifies on Truthy Social nearly daily. Come back. We testify on the radio. You could as well. 844-967-2789.
You've merely made radio your ally. I was born on the radio. Devil Radio 92.7.
ABC News. I'm Derek Dennis. California communities are trying to recover from 3 mass shootings in 3 days. Police say the shooting in Half Moon Bay that killed 7 people was a case of workplace violence.
Notifying the dead's next of kin is complicated in San Mateo County because some of the victims were migrants working in the U.S. without family here. Investigators say it was workplace violence. A 67-year-old suspect worked with the victims at Mushroom Farms. San Mateo County Sheriff Christina Corpus.
The semi-automatic handgun was legally purchased and owned.
The suspect was not known to police, and they say there were no warning
Check.
Check.
1 2 1 2. All right, I have no echo. Let me hang up the phone. Talk to me on here if you would.
In that case, we're good to go.
Police call it a random attack.
All right, check 1 2. Check 1 2.
Check 1 2.
Nope, I don't hear you.
Don't hear me? Why
check
not?
1 2. Check 1 2.
Check 1 2. Why can't you?
Nope, nothing yet. Check 1 2. Where's Evan? Check 1 2.
Mic on,
check.
I have it on free.
Let's see. I'm muted. I'm good. Hang on. Let me see. Make sure. Oh wait, you got okay. Your thumbs up. That's good, but I don't hear you though. I don't hear you. Output, input. I'll make sure I hear Crudy before we come back.
Check. Crudy is the coolest. Can you hear me, Dom?
All right, but can I get Crudy? Can I make sure we hear Crudy?
You're not hearing me. I'm talking right now. I
know you're talking right now, but I can't hear you yet. So I can't hear Crudy.
Then let's not change, man. Let's not change gears again mid-show. We don't need to change this.
That's fine.
It's not broken.
Here, I'm muted there.
It's not
That's
broken.
fine.
Let's not change.
Like I need to be able to.
We're not changing. We're just
fruit.
testing.
Always, obviously, that's a problem. Yeah, none of that's changed. So I'm still all. So all my settings are still the same. Can you send me sound? Send me Crudy?
Get back the
Send me
right to
something?
make their own personal, private healthcare
I got
decisions.
Nothing. I got nothing.
Join us for Up North News Radio weekday.
Nope, nothing. I have no sound. Go back to Zoom.
Yes.
That's a good question.
Check. Back to Zoom. Someone mute that. To disconnect. Oh shit! I need to disconnect. I can't just.
We got you.
Okay.
You got your
in. Okay.
Yeah. Why can't you hear me?
Link. Disconnect. All right. Now I'm disconnected. Audio. All right. Check. 1 2. Check 1 2. All right. Want to send me? There we go. I hear some sound.
No matter what you buy, make sure you buy Knucklehead.
Yeah, I hear it.
Saturday.
So that was good, but I didn't hear you. So what happened?
We're figuring.
Oh, you're working on it? Okay. All right.
We're just.
Let me know. All right. Cool, man.
Oh yeah, buddy. 1 minute.
All right. Thank you.
And Vapes, your one-stop smoke shop, located at 520 State Street in Madison. No matter what you buy, make sure you buy Knuckleheads.
Hey, Darcy, I just saw the perfect house. Can you help me write an offer on it?
I'd be happy to, Brian. Did you see it at an open house?
No, I just called the sign and had the agent show it to me. I didn't want to bug you.
Right. How many times have you heard me say don't call the sign?
All of them?
You called the agent working for the seller, and once you see the property with that agent, I'm no longer free to write an offer on it.
So...
You need to hire us from the beginning, help you find the right home, negotiate on your behalf, and protect your interests all the way through the process, and it shouldn't cost you a dime.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Find them at solidarityrealty.com.
This is Pat Krietlow from Up North News Radio. On the air, online, or on demand, make it a point to catch the first word on Wisconsin news and more weekday mornings from 6 to 8 all across the stations of the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about, The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a happy hour, the Tuesday edition. And Dom, bonus coverage. More of us. People are so excited right now. You can feel it coming through the phone lines at 844-967-2789. Plenty of time for your calls. And at 6 o'clock, we'll turn our attention back to the State of the State address. Great state of Wisconsin. Tony Evers going to burn it down tonight from the Wisconsin Assembly Chambers. He is perhaps rhetorically one of the best speakers I've ever heard.
Man, there's almost a $7 billion budget surplus in the state of Wisconsin. I hope Tony comes out with a stack of hundreds and starts making it rain, baby.
That would be a wonderful prop. Tony Bucks? You know, like Zucker Bucks, only but with the governor's face on there. Oh, could you see if he did that as a prop? Just turn around at Robin Voss and just start flicking off a stack. Biggest surplus in state history. You're welcome.
Hey, we all know that Scott Walker claims, although he did not, solve a $3.6 billion budget deficit, we actually have almost $7 billion in the state coffers right now. And what the Republicans would like to do here, well, we'll go to a flat tax, cost us $5 billion, and, we'll worry about the rest later.
That's what their rich donors want, Tom. Seems like a small idea to the rich guys. Let me point out, Tony is in the governance business. You and me at least, not the audience, not everyone, but we're supposed to be in the super cool entertainment.
We're the hype men? Is that what we do?
Well, I can tell you the build up to tonight's event might be a little better than the actual speech. I'm just saying it might be.
We'll see. You're going to have to stay tuned to find out. Let us know tomorrow.
But what I can say, Dom, it's a shame when any voice in the entertainment news industry goes dark, goes silent, like Newsmax might soon do. How could that be, Newsmax? I mean, that's a mega favorite, is it not, Dom?
It used to be. It may not be for much longer.
You found this coverage over at the Raw Story. See, I've trained you. Now you go to the Raw Story, too.
I love the Raw Story.
Newsmax set to go dark. Well, okay, that should be the normal headline. This company hasn't found solid ground, hasn't found carriage on the cable dial. You know, in the TV business, man, I'm a radio guy, but I learned this about the TV guys. You just throw up a TV station, then you can force the cable companies to pay you to carry your TV station. So you get paid whether or not your content basically sucks or not. I mean, around here, we got to earn it. But in TV, you get cable carriage. Well, unless you're Newsmax, unless you're not a good enough, strong enough station, and you start losing your carriers, they say, you know what? We're not going to pay you for your coverage any longer. No, thank you, Newsmax. And that's where they find themselves to the point where they're not going to have any carriage. No one's going to pay them for their crappy partisan coverage. And that's where we pick up the story at the Raw story. Another conservative news network could face an existential threat. DirecTV might be dropping the right-leaning Newsmax network, just as Don was hoping to get an anchor job, just as the cable television carrier did last year to the pro-Donald Trump channel One America News, according to a letter sent last week to House Republicans, reported at the Daily Beast. Here's a quote, Tom. If Newsmax is removed from DirecTV, in less than a year, House Republicans will have lost 2 of the 3 cable news channels that reach conservative voters on a platform that primarily serves conservative-leaning areas of the country, read the letter sent by first-term Rep. Wesley Hunt, Republican from Texas. Oh, yes, Dom, he's a regular guest on the Newsy Max network. The letter, which was co-signed by 41 GOP lawmakers, accused the carrier and its corporate owners, AT&T and TPG Capital, of moving to deplatform Newsmax by denying it cable fees. Those carriage fees I was describing, they don't want to pay Newsmax to put out the partisan news. So they're too woke to deplatform Newsmax by denying it cable fees on a fair and equitable basis. In the reference comment from Democratic members of the House Energy and Commerce Committee that described Fox News, Newsmax, and OANN as misinformation rumor mills and conspiracy theory hotbeds.
Yes, that's true.
Well, that part's true. So that's your defense. Given the jurisdiction of the Energy and Commerce Committee over your company's business interest, it is reasonable to assume you took this letter seriously and complied with their demands. Demands? Boy, that's a stretch. I mean, legally to say that is a stretch. Dom, a DirecTV representative didn't dispute the Newsmax deal with the carrier expires late Tuesday night. Hopefully after Tony stated the state address, because I'd love to see the Newsmax re-rack coverage of Tony's speech, as Hunt claimed. But that person said the network was asking for fees the company doesn't think are warranted.
So it's not that network Newsmax didn't have an availability. It's just that DirecTV isn't going to pay them what they want to be paid, or as this letter said, denying it cable fees on a quote fair and equitable basis. Well, apparently that is subjective. And if they don't want to do that, the Republicans are going to put a letter in? Big government Republicans trying to muscle in and push a private corporation or publicly traded with AT&T to carry propaganda stations that prop up other Republicans.
Well, Dominic, here's the other part. DirecTV's representative pointed out that Newsmax is seeking license fees from carriers while making the same content available for free on YouTube, streaming services such as Amazon, Fire TV, and Roku. Who the hell is going to pay you to produce something that you give away for free? No one's paying for the milk if you give it away for free.
Curdy Newsmax employees told the Daily Beast that they didn't know much about the negotiations and were caught off guard by Hunt's claims about losing DirecTV, but the lawmaker indicated Republicans may get involved in the dispute. Oh, you're right. It's a political decision to censor conservative media, which is a red flag for the First Amendment, Hunt told the Washington Examiner. The latest development in the left's ongoing campaign to purge voices they disagree with from the public sphere. No, that's so wrong. Number one, the First Amendment doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you get your crappy show on DirecTV. The public square, Newsy Max, if you want to go put up your soapbox and yell to the sky that the end is near, you can do that. No one is stopping you from doing that. The government is not censoring Newsmax. Newsmax trying to charge DirecTV for what they're giving away for free. You freaking kidding me, Republicans? And this is what you're going to come out? Big business, big government Republicans coming out and trying to squeeze AT&T. Wow.
They really, really hope that Elon will just go buy Newsmax and make it all better. Daddy, make it all better.
And then the other side, let's talk about this for a minute. Yes. So given the... set aside the financial circumstances as of right now. This is basically a negotiating thing. We want more. We're not going to pay it. Okay, you're done. All right, well, they could come back. Newsmax could accept, I don't know, free or above free, a couple of bucks. Certainly, it makes sense for them, for AT&T DirecTV not to engage if they're going to do this anyway. It's not like this is, only content you can find on AT&T. But what's the other side of this? I mean, how long have these organizations been around? These are not legacy, ABC, NBC, CBS type stuff. What, 2014 for Newsmax, 2013, I think, for OAN, and they didn't start out on DirecTV. That was only, fairly recently that this became around. When I saw them on DirecTV, I was saying to myself, why the hell are they playing this stuff on DirecTV? So what? And to have the Republicans who claim to be all sorts of things, the George Santos Republicans today, I want to bring the big heavy hand of government and stick it to DirecTV and AT&T and their partners, because they don't want to put up the propaganda that somebody else gets for free for a price. Wow. Way to go, Santos Republicans.
844-967-2789. I'd give that rant at least a solid B+. All
right, come on, Tony, you can do it, baby.
If Dom can get a B+, Tony, you got A- in you, fella. A- effort at minimum. We're gonna take you bonus coverage right here on the Devil's Advocates. 3 hours of us, just like we used to do it, all the way up to the live State of the State address right here on the Civic Media Network. We've got lots of friends joining us later, like Pat Krietlow from the Up North News, Todd Allbaugh from the Todd Allbaugh Show, of course, on the Civic Media Network. And then news director Terry Bell is going to bring us live coverage from the Assembly Chambers, Wisconsin State Capitol. Dom, did we mention we're moving up that way pretty quick? Got a new, beautiful, shiny world headquarters, corner of State and Dayton Street. So, when they're protesting and stuff, doing the nude bike rides, all that stuff, we'll be up there for all of it.
Right.
Can't wait, Tom. Can't wait. And can't wait for the live coverage to kick in. But we mentioned this as we started the show. Mike Pence, we got some of his own classified documents.
He's trying to be as presidential as he possibly can.
I also took important papers. They let me play with the important papers. Steve Bannon, podcaster Dom, is lashing out at the former VP, accusing him of providing cover for Joe Biden. And the specific thing, he's calling him Judas Pence.
Judas Priest?
Judas Pence. As Republican Party loyalists are enjoying the afterglow of classified documents being found belonging to President Joe Biden, while minimizing the classified documents that have been found at the Indiana home of former VP Mike Pence. Steve Bannon, longtime advisor, supporter, confidant of President Donald Trump. I'd like to point out former alleged meth head, pardoned felon. What else?
And currently convicted of the Congress, contempt of Congress, and is awaiting his jail sentence, but he's on appeal right now.
And podcaster Steve Bannon.
Oh, well, if you're a podcaster,
has used the opportunity to knock Pence off his GOP platform for a possible 2024 presidential campaign. on Penn's Getter social media account. That's a social media Getter. He reacted to the news of Pence's classified documents. Judas Pence attempts to provide cover for Biden. Is that what he's doing?
Really? Why wouldn't it be cover for Trump? Oh, that's right. Hang Mike Pence.
What should be the punishment for this news disclosure that Mike Pence had classified documents?
Well, I mean, if it's treason, it's capital punishment. Hang Mike Pence.
Hang Mike Pence. That's what Bannon was going to come around to eventually, Don, but let me read from the reporting. Bannon's comments come with no basis on Pence trying to minimize the findings of Biden's classified documents, and before a major media response has been provided by Pence. A major media response, that means he's going on Hugh Hewitt, right? Some right-wing talk radio show.
Won't be Bannon's.
Most political insiders believe Bannon is just acting as a de facto Trump spokesperson on the issue. Another possibility is that Bannon is trying to deflect attention from his current case.
Oh, yeah, that one too.
That he fraudulently obtained donations for the Build the Wall campaign and misappropriated those funds for the unfinished project. Yeah, did he raise private funds to build the walls?
That's such a nice way to put it. Misappropriated funds and, fraudulently obtained donations. Yes, that's exactly what he did.
After his prior federal pardon, Dom, he is currently Bannon, podcaster, scumbag, all those other things aforementioned. Allegedly, Bannon is facing charges of conspiracy, money laundering, scheming to defraud investors, and the aforementioned contempt of Congress. He's a savory fella, Dom. Such a fine complexion he has.
Oh, man, love the mega.
Could you see that guy in a beach? Him and Chris Christie just enjoying a me day. Come back. More Devil's Advocates. You'll have that image forever.
No, it's terrible. Terrible.
The little high, the more wretched high with scum and villainy.
Mike Pence said no.
Veterans, whatever you're going through, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach. Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Aaron Mostovsky, who rioted at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, was dressed as Captain Caveman. QAnon shaman meets Law and Order.
Right. I mean, he pulled it off a whole lot better than Aaron Mostovsky.
Well, let me read a quote from the judge in this case. I hope you'll leave some of this fantasy world behind. Mostovsky was sentenced to 8 months in prison.
Looking at the guy, he might be one who loses his mattress on the first day. Breaking news.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
What is dedication?
My daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Did you know your favorite shows and hosts are active on social media too? Find Civic Media on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook and be part of the conversation happening there. And go to our website, civicmedia.us, to learn more about the Civic Media Network.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Overcast skies tonight with lows around 26. Southeasterly winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Snow showers likely at times tomorrow, high of 32, cloudy. Chance of snow showers again tomorrow night. Lows dip down to about 24. Cloudy skies. 1 to 2 inches of snow tomorrow through tomorrow night with another inch Friday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 30 degrees.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but the show is kind of a big deal.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You can join us on the phones at 844-967-2789. Callers, be patient. We'll screen you shortly.
Do we even really screen them?
Name where you call from.
Back there. 844-96-PARTY.
Hey, don't diminish the hard work that Evan does, man.
Well, by our own admission, it's lightly screened. Like, you could sneak weapons in here, I'm telling you. And contraband, come on in. Join us. Weapons and contraband. It's all welcome here. Dom, I did want to hammer on Florida Governor Ron DeSantis while we're still in the national hour here. We will do extended coverage, so stick around past 6 Central Time. But Jennifer Rubin at the Washington Post, a judge exposes DeSantis contempt for the First Amendment. And most parts of the Constitution, right, Dom? But let's get a little of the coverage out. Andrew Warren, the state prosecutor for Hillsborough County, Florida, spoke against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. How dare he? Ron DeSantis's forced birth abortion plan and his persecution of LGBTQ youth. In August, DeSantis suspended him and falsely claimed it was because Warren had made a blanket promise not to prosecute certain cases. Warren sued, and on Friday, a judge sided with him on the facts, but here's the part that's troubling, but did not give him the relief he sought. But back to the facts of the matter, Dom. In his ruling, U.S. District Judge Robert Hinkle called DeSantis' allegation against Warren false. Effectively, a federal judge just called DeSantis a liar, Dom. Mr. Warren's well-established policy, followed in every case by every prosecutor in the office, Hinkle wrote, was to exercise prosecutorial discretion at every stage of every case. Any reasonable investigation would have confirmed this. The bare minimum of diligence would have confirmed this. Wait, Dom, there's more. Hinkle underscored that Warren had been carrying out his duties without a fault. Again, from the federal judge's statement. The record includes not a hint of misconduct by Mr. Warren. So far as this record reflects, he is diligently and competently performing the job he was elected to perform, very much in a way he told voters he would perform it. Contrary to this, this is the quote is done. Contrary to DeSantis's claim, Jennifer Rubin writes, Warren had no blanket non-prosecution policies. The judge added, and this is a quote, any minimally competent inquiry would have confirmed this. Let me say that again. I might not have gotten it right. I want to be at least minimally competent when I read this. Any minimally competent inquiry would have confirmed this. The assertion that Mr. Warren neglected his duty or was incompetent is incorrect. The factual issue is not close. That's a federal judge telling Ron DeSantis, you're a big fat liar.
Crudy, in fact, the court determined, based on uncontroverted evidence, it was, stripped of pretext, a motivating factor in Mr. Warren's suspension was that he was a progressive prosecutor and, of all things, supported by billionaire George Soros, who was also a contributor to the Democratic Party. In the first 57 pages of the 59-page opinion, the court makes crystal clear that DeSantis went after Warren for his political affiliation and views, including his outspoken defense of his record as a reform prosecutor. However, the kicker lies in the last 2 pages. Warren still couldn't obtain reinstatement. Unfortunately for Warren, the court ruled that even if he was protected from being fired over his stated beliefs, DeSantis would still have suspended Warren for non-protected reasons, ergo his record as a reformer and his disinclination to prosecute people in their first encounter with the police for bicycle and pedestrian violations. Oh, how dare he! I mean, you know what? So DeSantis wants him to go after the... never been in trouble with the law before, but if you do anything wrong on your bicycle or you jaywalk, you better go after him hard. Rubin continues. In addition, Hinkle held that Warren could not obtain the relief under the Florida Constitution because the 11th Amendment prohibits a federal court from ordering a state official to take action for a violation of state laws. Had Warren brought the case in state court, there would have been no 11th Amendment barrier, but Warren no doubt chose to bring this case in the federal court on a First Amendment theory to sidestep right-wing state judges. He might still pursue that avenue for relief. Warren told Rubin on Monday, quote, "The reaction has been overwhelming. People are excited that we won on the merits and proved DeSantis broke the law in suspending me, and they are eagerly awaiting my reinstatement. We are still weighing our legal options going forward." Still, the end result is unsatisfying when, as the judge indicated, someone breaks both federal and state law and gets away with it. The sense of injustice is palpable. But while Warren did not prevail in getting reinstated, he certainly pulled back the curtain on the authoritarian mindset of a governor who crushes dissent to score political points. As Warren said in public remarks after the ruling, DeSantis' conduct should send shivers down the spine of anyone who cares about free speech, the integrity of elections, and the rule of law. Put differently, Warren served as a canary in the coal mine with regard to a governor who remains a top presidential prospect for 2024, exposing DeSantis' abuse of power and his contempt for the First Amendment. There have been other warnings about DeSantis as well, from his retaliation against Disney for opposing the Don't Say Gay bill to his inhumane and deceptive practice of shipping asylum seekers from Texas to Massachusetts. Norm Eisen, former co-counsel for House impeachment managers, tells me, quote, "The 11th Amendment obstacle should not detract from the truth and the danger it represents. Like Trump, DeSantis is a serial violator of the rule of law with a shrewd and perhaps even shrewder ability to dodge consequences. Let no one be confused. DeSantis is not a break with the mega anti-democratic movement. He is only a less buffoonish version of the defeated former president, and that makes him all the more dangerous," writes an opinion from Jennifer Rubin at the Washington Post.
844-967-2789. We're sneak at least one in here. Jerry listening from Arizona. Jerry, welcome. Give you like a minute.
Hey, Jerry.
We had snow last night. It wasn't much, but it was a light flake. So I'm telling you, this is shocking. It's global change. Anyway, I was going to suggest that we add to Amendment 28 to the Constitution of the United States that we have to have wording where this fraud BS it's illegal. See, Santos got by with it. He was set up. He was probably paid by one of Trump, definitely a mayor, because there's no law that says what he did is illegal. So we have to have the last amendment to the Constitution. It would be number 28. We have to have wording and language that says it's illegal. Another thing is...
Jerry, we don't have time for another thing, unfortunately. Please stick around if you're listening on the stream from Arizona. Civic Media, take it anywhere. Bonus coverage, more Devil's Advocates. You're so excited. The third hour, Pat Krietlow, our fine guest. Stick around.
What are the governor's priorities for Wisconsin? Tony Evers will lay out his second-term plans during his State of the State address January 24th. You can hear it live on your local Civic Media radio station. Will abortion rights, Medicaid expansion, and legalizing marijuana be the top issues? Your favorite hosts also provide insight by breaking down the governor's address. The State of the State address live Tuesday, January 24th at 7 p.m. here on your local Civic Media radio station, streaming on the Civic Media app.
Looking for a post-holiday sale? We've got one for you at Ula Eyewear. The team is here to help you find stylish frames at great prices during our big winter sale. Thursday, January 26th through Sunday, January 29th, hundreds of in-stock frames and sunglasses are 15 to 50% off. Need more than one pair? The more you buy, the bigger you save on frames and lenses. So don't miss the big winter sale, January 26th through the 29th at Ula Eyewear, Hilldale Shopping Center.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Civic Media app.
ABC News, I'm Andy Field. President Biden renewing his call for an assault weapons ban after a series of mass shootings since the beginning of the year.
Our hearts are with the people of California. They've been a rough couple of days. I just got back from spending time with Gavin Newsom on the floods and the devastation that occurred, and then on top of that, we see what's happened in California.
Police think the mass shootings at 2 farms in California is a case of suspected workplace violence. Boxes of classified documents found at former Vice President Mike Pence's Indiana home were taped, according to sources who say they don't appear to have been open since they were packed. Still, Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Mark Warner calls the find surprising.
I got it drummed into my head. You know, you don't take anything that's got a classification.
2 former Arkansas police officers are charged with civil rights violations over the violent arrest of a man outside a convenience store that was caught on video. This is ABC News. More so-called extraordinary measures taken to keep the government from defaulting since hitting the debt ceiling.
In a new letter to congressional leaders, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says she authorized an additional accounting maneuver to prevent the U.S. from breaching the debt limit. Yellen says the Treasury Department will stop fully investing in a government investment fund for federal workers. Yellen previously said these, quote, extraordinary measures would prevent the U.S. from defaulting on its debt until at least June, buying lawmakers some time to reach a deal. Elizabeth Schulze, ABC News.
A new exhibition opening at the German parliament has brought 16 objects from Holocaust survivors and genocide victims back to their country of origin for the first time. American skier Michaela Schifrin has won a record 83rd World Cup race, making her the winningest woman alpine skier in history. Schifrin now needs only 3 more wins to match Ingemar Stenmark's overall record of 86 victories among both men and women. Andy Field, ABC News.
In time, you will know the true power of Devil Radio 92.7. It is your destiny.
You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 and WTTN 1580 AM, and that's pretty cool.
I'm Terry Bell. Here's what you need to know. Wisconsin is offering a new round of standard response protocol and standard reunification method training. They help schools learn what to do in an emergency and reunite kids with their families afterward. Attorney General Josh Call says the idea is a comprehensive approach to school safety statewide. An event known as the Ojibwa Winter Olympics returns to northern Wisconsin's Madeline Island next month. It's the first snow snake festival in more than 150 years. The federal government shut down the games in the mid-1800s because of gambling. Organizers are working to bring back traditional indigenous culture. There'll be workshops and other attractions. In sports, the Bucks beat Detroit last night 150-130. The Badgers lost to Northwestern 66-63. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM, WTTN 1580 AM.
It's a new year, and because we're excited about our new and still growing Civic Media network of radio stations, it's time to do something really big. How does $1 million advertising giveaway sound to you? Our celebration is your chance to work with Civic Media's amazing sales team, creating a radio advertising campaign promoting your business for free. Save the date. The $1 million advertising giveaway is only happening on Thursday, January 26th. Full details on our website, civicmedia.us/million.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page, or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress. But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
10 years ago, we opened with a single location. We had one glass blower, that's me, and a full display of artistically created glass pipes and products. Today, you've helped us grow to 3 successful locations. Ignite Glass and Gifts thanks you for your continued support. We'll be here as long as you need us. Madison's favorite for glass gifts and bait. Ignite Glass and Gifts, Monona Drive, Williamson Street, and Odana Road. 1 solid decade. Man, does that feel good.
Hey, Dom, how many palindromes can you name in 30 seconds?
Race car, mom, dad, reefer, kayak, level. Did I say mom already?
You're forgetting one really important one.
Zero res.
Not only is it the coolest palindrome ever, it's also our favorite.
Right, I remember. Why is that again?
They advertise with us.
Zero res, my favorite palindrome.
And carpet cleaner. Get the best carpet cleaning ever. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at zeroresmedicine.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
you've got questions about navigating the healthcare system, Kristen Lyerly helps us find answers and discusses other issues at the intersection of healthcare and politics. Hometown Health, Thursday mornings at 7:30 on Up North News Radio.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty.
You are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to bonus coverage of the Devil's Advocates, leading up, Dominic, to the most dynamic State of the State speech perhaps in Wisconsin's history.
Perhaps in our lifetime.
Governor Tony Evers is going to light the room on fire about 7 o'clock Central Time. We're going to play it for you right here on the Civic Media app. And we've got a fine guest and co-pundit, Civic Media host, Up North News' own. He's Pat Krietlow. Pat, you were a former state senator. You've sat through some of these speeches, but none will hold a candle to Tony's barn burner tonight.
Hey, Pat,
you know the ones I sat through were delivered by Jim Doyle, right? So,
Jim Doyle, as Tony would call him, Mr. Dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. So look, we, all kidding aside, Jim Doyle gave a good speech, but let's not confuse him with, The Greatest Showman Ever or whatever that movie was. These are speeches that are a little bit beyond their time, shall we say. There's a little bit of performance art, not the kind of performance where you're doing a song and dance, but where you're going through the motions of saying, look, dudes and dudettes, this is what I want you guys to get done. I have the prerogative. I got the seal, I got the office in the East Wing, so I get to come in front of you and tell you what I want to do. In the end, since Republicans control the legislature, they have to sit there, politely applaud now and then. But, they and Governor Evers' veto pen get the last word. But this is one of those steps we have to do in the dance to get a state budget.
Now, Pat, is it possible, you talk about a song and a dance, we could see a marching band? There's plenty of things.
Oh, yes.
Tony could do to bring attention and spice up the speech. Mm-hmm. And we play it for you right here on the Civic Media Network. But then eventually the man's got to stand in front of the lectern and address the class. And a very smug looking Robin Voss, I suspect, looking over his, probably Tony's left shoulder. And then there's always the ginormous head of Tyler August, Speaker Pro Tem, just hovering in the background.
That hovering is so weird. And the only time I've ever really seen it work in all my years of State of the State addresses and State of the Union addresses was that year Nancy Pelosi tore up a copy of Trump's speech right after he gave the State of the Union address. But other than that, we just wait every day to see, or every year to see if somebody falls asleep or, if they've got a sneeze or whatever the case may be. Again, not a backdrop that's made for television, as they say, but it's something that gets done so that a governor can tell the legislature, their priorities. And Governor Evers has already put forward some excerpts from the speech that make clear that, his priorities are going to deal around the economy, around workforce development, around childcare. Though I will tell you, if you haven't seen the excerpts yet, he does take he takes quite a shot at Scott Walker
for us. Don't No spoilers here, please.
Okay, well, then I won't tell you how he takes a shot at Scott Walker, but you'll want to stick around for that as he outlines all of his priorities for what he would like to see in a budget bill. And then Robin Vos, the Assembly Speaker, is not trusting anybody else in his caucus. He's not trusting any senator, nobody but himself to deliver the Republican response. And if you will recall how he got primaried last year and how I'm sure there was some dissension in the ranks of his membership, you understand why he feels like if anybody's going to deliver the Republican address, it's going to be him, because he's a caucus of one right now when it comes to trust.
Well, and Pat, but there's no rising stars in the Republican Party. I mean,
Janelle Brandtjen.
If Voss take it upon himself to deliver the response, what does that say about the rest of his caucus?
Well, it says they fall in line. It says that in the end, he is the speaker. Quite literally, he speaks for them all, and unlike in Congress where you could find, well, how many people at first opposed Kevin McCarthy for House Speaker, you don't really have that in the state assembly. You might have some grumbling, but in the end, there's nobody that wants to emerge as a star, if you will, because again, when Janelle Brandtjen tried to, stand out, we saw what happened to her. So yeah, not a lot of dynamic communication is going on that side of the aisle.
She's a star. She's a bright, shining star, I tell you, Dom.
Only to the extent that she can actually get an election overturned or whatever her past record indicates,
We are the Devil's Advocates. That's Pat Krietlow, Up North News. Pat, I guess that's the point. It's not like there are people that are saying things. It's not as if Janelle Brandtjen or any of the other election deniers didn't have, passion and something to say. It's just the what they were saying and how they were saying it, and the lack of facts and evidence about their positions, lends us, everyone, to believe, well, they have very little credibility on any of these issues. And if Robin Vos, who, obviously, as we all know, put Gableman, disgraced former Justice Gableman, in charge of this fraudulent election investigation, then ends up firing him after paying hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, calls him an embarrassment to the state. I mean, Robin Vos is the headmaster of a circus.
Very much so. And again, he was having some dissension in the ranks because he had the audacity to say, the 2020 election, once after Gableman, he said, okay, it's over. We've got to move on. Robin Vos is nothing if he's not a tactician. And he, more than many other Republicans, said, you know what? This thing has run its course. We are not going to relitigate 2020. I will actually be surprised if Speaker Vos gives more than lip service to, election integrity, or however he puts it. But I think he'd just like to put that all behind him and just get back to what he does best, which is to mischaracterize, what Tony Evers is doing, that by, again, having the gall to propose things, that makes him political and divisive. And that's what I expect to hear in the Republican response.
Pat, what was your response to I perceive it to be complete political cynicism, the referendums that the Republicans would jam onto the spring ballot? Welfare people should work, those welfare queens, to apparently turn out their base because that's what energizes their base. But of course, the issue of abortion, no, we can't go there. No way, even on a non-binding basis, certainly not on a constitutional referendum binding sort of basis, do we want to know what the voters of the state of Wisconsin would say on the abortion issue, because the vast majority of them do not agree with the Republican legislative majority on this issue, and certainly not with Robin Vos. And when he says Tony Evers is some kind of extremist because he won't come halfway back to an abortion ban that carves out rape and incest, I mean, wow, could you, Robin?
Well, that's where you've got to give credit to the Democratic caucuses in the Assembly and Senate, led by Greta Neubauer in the Assembly and Melissa Agard in the Senate, that they didn't just sit there and take it when Republicans wanted to put up a literally useless a constitutional amendment that says something about welfare benefits that is already state law. No, instead of just sitting there and Democrats rolling their eyes, they said, oh, you want to ask voters what they think of an already existing law? I have an idea. Here's an existing law from 1849. How about if we ask the voters about that? And of course, the Republicans right away just went, oh, God, no. And so the strategy, yes, is to gin up turnout. But honestly, that's going to do next to nothing, I think, to get any extra conservative voters out to vote in the state Supreme Court election in April. What's really going to do it is going to be, money from the E-lines or whatever other, super PACs are backing whichever conservative candidate comes out of the primary. And I will say, and I will say it a 1,000 more times, I'm sure, folks got to vote in the February primary, because there's no guarantee that one or both progressive candidates will come out of that primary. It could be the top 2 vote getters in February are the conservatives, and then there will be no progressive choice who that justice is. So as important as the April election is, the February primary, folks got to turn out for that if they want real choice come April.
Now, Pat Krietlow, you served in the state Senate. You've run the elective cycle, and abortion, I got to think, is still front and center. And in fact, the Wisconsin Supreme Court literally could have a say on the issue of abortion and the gerrymandered maps and a lot of other important issues for Wisconsinites. So how does the governor, the one big shot he's got all year to give this speech, to take the bully pulpit and to put abortion front and center, because we're in the election cycle, how does politician Evers play it tonight, do you think?
Oh, he plays it up is really what it is. Now, interestingly, there were so many things that were in those pre-released excerpts. I mentioned, the economy and broadband, clean energy, veterans, education, tax relief. And the first thing on my list of what's not in there, abortion, because he does not want to give Republicans any talking points ahead of time. But I fully expect that he is going to play that up, that the Democrats in the crowd are going to cheer wildly when he talks about how terrible, how old this law is that was put up 70 years before women even had the right to vote. So he most certainly, as quiet as he is most of the time, he is still a veteran politician and knows that is going to be probably his biggest line that's going to be used after this speech. People aren't going to talk about the economic platform or clean energy. They're going to talk about what Tony Evers had to say about letting voters have a say and getting rid of a law written a year after Wisconsin became a state.
Pat Krietlow, put you on the spot. What's your drinking word? What's your trigger word? Tony says it, you're drinking. What is it?
Well, folks, because I've got to go to bed early for a 6 a.m. show. And if I go with folks, I should be passed out, 2/3 of the way through the speech.
He is Pat Krietlow. He's the early morning guy. Pat, you got a few more minutes for us?
Absolutely. You bet.
Outstanding up north news. It's not a podcast. It's a morning radio show, 6 to 8 a.m. across the Civic Media Network. Pat's going to stick around. Special bonus Devil's Advocates all the way up to Tony's dynamic State of the State speech. Best one you ever heard on this network.
You've kept up with the times. For example, you're fluent in texting.
Honey, what does IDTTSWA mean?
It means I'm going to the store, want anything.
If you can do that, you can definitely save for retirement. Go to aceyourretirement.org for a quick 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach. Get personalized tips to help boost your retirement savings. And it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back. Check out aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
You could nominate your D-Bag of the Year. Got a nominee for us?
There was so many of them, as we can tell. I had to go with the ranked choice system. Okay?
I like the way you think, Rick. Okay. What else you got?
Rojo.
Listener poll. I think this nominee for D-Bag of the Year pretty much sums it up.
Find Civic Media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and also on our website. Go to civicmedia.us.
Here's today's STEM tip.
Don't throw out that old plastic bottle. Repurpose it by turning it into an awesome terrarium. Just fill it with sand, pebbles, soil, and your favorite plant. It'll grow sealed right in its own ecosystem. Learn more at She Can STEM. A message from the Ad Council.
Miss our conversations on air? Join the discussion on our social media channels. Find Civic Media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also find social media for specific shows and hosts on our website. Go to civicmedia.us.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Overcast skies tonight with lows around 26. Southeasterly winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Snow showers likely at times tomorrow, high of 32, cloudy. Chance of snow showers again tomorrow night. Lows dip down to about 24. Cloudy skies. 1 to 2 inches of snow tomorrow through tomorrow night with another inch Friday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 29 degrees.
Save the $2 on tomorrow's paper. Listen to the Devil's Advocates today.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show extended coverage. You can join us on the phones leading up to the State of the State address. Governor Tony Evers is going to jump on around 7 o'clock, but our phone number, 844-967-2789.
Hey, Pat Krietlow, our good buddy, Up North News. You've had the governor on your show, haven't you?
We have had an interview with him, yes, and he's talked to Up North News reporters previously about, his end of the year, looking back, looking ahead for us, yes.
Well, I don't mean chasing him out in the public. I can do that.
Right.
But he came on the show. He answered the call.
Yes, and he is always on message in terms of having an actual, plan of things that he'd like to do to advance Wisconsin, grow the economy, solve problems. And that is why I think that whatever the Republican response is, I hope that the press corps there, and I'm looking right now at the view that Terry Bell, Civic Media News Director, has from the press gallery in the Assembly chamber there. And I hope that those Republicans continue to be pressed on, for example, if they really want that flat tax, if that's what they want to try to jam through to Governor Evers, which is going to blow a $5 billion hole in the budget, make them say, what are you going to cut? Because Tony Evers is going to tell you what he would like to grow, what he would like to improve. But, Republicans are going to give a lot of rhetoric, but not a lot of specifics.
Pat, weed, man. What about the legal weed? Is there any indication that Governor Evers is going to, as he said before, he's down apparently now with the legalized, tax and regulated marijuana cannabis market here in the state of Wisconsin? We're surrounded by states. Everyone goes out of state. Hell, there's still a thriving illegal black market weed market here in Wisconsin. Is that something, do you think, number one, will come up in the speech? And number two, I know it sounds coming from a couple of weed guys like us, like, it's just more weed talk, but legitimately, this is a justice issue. This is a racial issue. This is a revenue issue. This is a freedom issue. What's your sense on how the governor's going to handle that tonight?
I'm looking back right now. I pulled up all of our stories from the previous 4 State of the State addresses, and I don't know for sure that it has ever received a mention in there. I think if ever it were going to, it would be this first year after being reelected. But again, it wasn't in the pre-released excerpts. And I almost wonder, Dom, if where we'll see it is in part 2 of all of this. And I don't think we've talked about that. This is part 1, the State of the State. It's very much just general themes. Here's what I'd like to do. And then it's on February 14th that he comes back into that chamber and delivers his budget address, where he actually puts money next to things. And if the governor were going to bring up, legalizing marijuana, yes, they're going to have the legislature's got to meet on Valentine's Day night. I've had to do that before.
Planned that is.
It just tells you it's planned. It was planned by people who don't always have the most stable domestic situation back at home, shall we say. So if I got to work on Valentine's Day, the rest of you got to. That has been said. Yes.
So Mrs. Voss is lovely.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
So on Valentine's Day night, we may hear the governor then say, "Hey guys, it's about time we legalize this. Here's the amount of money it would bring in," and see if that motivates legislators. Then it probably won't. The Republicans have already said there's no pathway to legalizing. Excuse me, no pathway with what 70% approval in the state. There's a pathway. It's called vote yes.
Now, millions of dollars, Pat. Hell, that's just from the devil's advocates. On a more serious note, guns. Milwaukee, another terrible weekend of violence here in Milwaukee. Of course, nationwide too. Mass shootings. So many mass shootings since the beginning of the year. It seems like an evergreen issue. Pat, was there any mention, or do you expect any sort of conversation around gun safety?
I think it'll be brief because he already knows that nothing's going to happen with this Republican-led legislature. So what I think he will do, if anything, is put in a mention that is designed to call them out and shame them a bit for the way that they have shamefully gavelled in and gavelled out a special session that he called specifically for gun safety, a lot like all of the other special sessions that they gavelled in and gavelled out and didn't take up anything. Now, he's not going to go as far as maybe I would if I were up there and really call out Republicans as almost accessories to the carnage that's out there because they refuse to do anything. But I don't expect the governor to be that sharp on it because he already knows, again, you've got something like 70, 80, in some cases, 90% public support for things like universal background checks. So he just has to point out yet again, these guys are out of the mainstream and let the viewing audience take it from there.
Pat Krietlow, our good buddy, you were a state senator. And you sat in the chamber. And Pat, I actually have been there both as a attendee. I was there as one of Jim Doyle's props. I had to do the stand up and wave thing. I got to tell you, a little embarrassing. It was on short notice. Mm-hmm. My family had been lobbying for our son, who's on the autism spectrum, for some legislation that was eventually stuck in the budget and became law under Governor Doyle. Tony Evers is going to put his budgetary speech out there apparently on Valentine's Day. Not my first choice, but Republicans are going to throw it in the shredder.
Oh, yes.
Then it comes down to, does Tony have the backbone and the will to fight this battle into the summer, into the fall if necessary? I hope he does. Your thoughts?
He's got that veto pen. That was the main thing that he ran on. He is the one defense against a flat tax. That would be a massive giveaway to the wealthy. So at some point, again, we can do this all the way until June 30th when the next budget's due. We could even go into overtime. But at some point, yet again, folks got to figure out on, the Republican side of the aisle, they've got to work out something together. And there's no election anytime soon. It's the odd numbered year. So how about you just sit down and actually do it? But I think we're going to have to go through some drama instead before we get there.
Pat Krietlow, our good buddy. He is the morning host around here on the Civic Media Network, Up North News. Pat, I guess I'll have to envy your fine and dynamic interviews with Governor Tony Evers. I can only envy them at this point. If you're listening, Governor, call us. 844-967-2789. Probably getting ready for the big speech. It's going to play out live here. We got another fine guest, Todd Allbaugh, coming soon. Pat, I'll catch you in the morning.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, guys.
I'm so glad you're listening to Devil Radio. It makes me so happy. Moo.
ABC News.
All right, guys. Thanks.
President Biden renewing his call for an assault weapons ban after a series of mass shootings since the beginning of the year.
Our hearts are with the people of California. They've been a rough couple days. I just got back from spending time with Gavin Newsom on the floods and the devastation that occurred. And then on top of that, we see what's happened in California.
Police think the mass shootings at 2 farms in California is a case of suspected workplace violence. Boxes of classified documents found at former Vice President Mike Pence's Indiana home were taped, according to sources who say they don't appear to have been opened since they were packed. Still, Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Mark Warner calls the finds surprising.
I got it drummed into my head. Mm-hmm. You don't take anything
that's got a classification.
2 former Arkansas police officers are charged with civil rights violations over the violent arrest of a man outside a convenience store that was caught on video. This is ABC News.
I find your lack of Devil Radio 92.7 disturbing. Do not fail me again.
This is Pat Krietlow from Up North News Radio. Dane County Judge Chris Taylor is running unopposed to serve on the State Court of Appeals, but that's not stopping her from getting out on the campaign trail in a different role, explaining the importance of the appeals court, yes, but also the race for state Supreme Court. It doesn't get the attention of races for governor or U.S. Senate, but it arguably has more of an impact on the lives of Wisconsinites when you see how the current conservative majority has reduced voting rights and made it tougher to fight a pandemic.
My opinion of courts is that our role is to protect and expand people's rights, not take them away.
Taylor says beyond voting rights, the Supreme Court race can also determine whether women can get back the right to make their own personal, private healthcare decisions. Join us for Up North News Radio weekdays 6 to 8 a.m. and at upnorthnewswi.com.
What are the governor's priorities for Wisconsin? Tony Evers will lay out his second-term plans during his State of the State address January 24th. You can hear it live on your local Civic Media radio station. Will abortion rights, Medicaid expansion, and legalizing marijuana be the top issues? Your favorite hosts also provide insight by breaking down the governor's address. The State of the State address live Tuesday, January 24th at 7 p.m. here on your local Civic Media radio station, streaming on the Civic Media app.
Darcy Haber, I hear you have solar panels on your office building. Since when are real estate brokers so concerned about the environment?
True, you should know that at Solidarity Realty, we provide outstanding real estate service while adhering to our core progressive values. Environmental sustainability is a big part of that.
So you really walk your talk, huh?
Yeah, I even walk to work.
Come on, always?
Well, sometimes I bike, and if I have an appointment across town, I use my solar panels to charge my plug-in.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Check them out at solidarityrealty.com.
Did you know ordinary antifreeze only does 2/3 of the job? Prestone's most advanced technology gives your vehicle total protection. Aside from overheating and freezing prevention, Prestone Total Protection keeps your cooling system free from damage caused by rust, corrosion, and buildup. Plus, it protects your investment by helping parts last longer and preventing costly repairs. Keep your engine protected by picking up a gallon of Prestone antifreeze from your local Auto Value parts store today. Auto Value. We've got the parts. We've got the smarts.
Madison, tune in every weekday from 11 to 2 on Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM for the Thom Hartmann program. Join the show's conversation because our democracy is not a spectator sport. Listen live right here on Devil Radio.
Malarkey? The Devil's Advocates invented malarkey.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a Tuesday night. It's special up in here. Bonus coverage, the happiest of the happier happy hours, hour 3 of the Devil's Advocates. Thank you to our good friend, the morning host. He's got to get up early.
Yeah, that's hard
bed.
Work, man. Getting up early. There's a reason we do a drive-time show, man.
Afternoon, evening drives. Sometimes it's dark when we leave the airwaves, when Pat gets up. Sometimes it's dark when he's getting on the airwaves. Tune them in across the Civic Media Network or get the app anywhere. The Pat Krietlow Up North News, 6 to 8 a.m. So tune them in tomorrow morning. And the big speech from Tony Evers is going to start after 7, Dom. We got Todd Allbaugh, host of the Todd Allbaugh Show, Civic Media, 8 to 11 in a lot of our markets, Richland Center, Amory, Warsaw, Bull Falls Radio. One of my favorite stations. Fine new facility. Did I mention I was in Green Bay listening crystal clear on WGBW 97.9 FM. Tell all your friends. Sounds damn good.
Nice.
Also listen to the Oshkosh Air Support on the way and back, 98.3. But anyways, here's the point. If I'm getting to a point, I better start making it.
What's the point, Crudy?
Normally, we're late on the airwaves, but Bruce Murphy, our friend from the Urban Milwaukee Online Daily, often drop stories right as we're leaving. And he's got a new one, and I'd like to share it with the audience because tonight we got a little bonus time. The radical views of Dan Kelly and Jennifer Dorow, the conservative Supreme Court candidates. As Murphy points out in the subheadline, and you could say this of us, Tom, although take out the Bible part, both candidates for state Supreme Court got legal training from mediocre Bible-oriented school.
No.
Well, they got the mediocre part right in the case of UW La Crosse.
Oh, come on, a fine institution.
Not for what I was studying.
Did you even graduate, Mike?
I did. Good enough, and I would say this. UWL, good enough for Bellin, good enough for this fine product.
Hey, come on, one of the finest Wisconsin schools there is. Beautiful, good school, great professors, and awesome students.
And they party.
Oh,
do
yeah,
they
do. Oh, yes, they do.
Let me jump into the Bruce Murphy while there's time. The race for state Supreme Court has been described as a contest between two conservatives, Dan Kelly and, celebrity judge Jennifer Dorow, and two liberals, Everett Mitchell and Janet Protasewicz. But that only begins to describe how stark the difference is in this election. Remarkably, the two conservatives, Kelly and Dorow, both got their law degree from Regent University, founded by fundamentalist TV preacher Pat Robertson.
What? You gotta be kidding me.
It was still called the Christian Broadcasting Network School of Law. Let me repeat that in case you laughed over it and the audience didn't hear it. It was still called the Christian Broadcasting Network School of Law when Kelly began attending it, and it changed its name in 1991, a year before he graduated, and 2 years before Dorow began taking classes there. Oh, geez, man. They're like our contemporaries almost. Nowadays, it ranks pretty low among law schools. Behind 141 by the U.S. News and World Report. But back in the 1990s, when Kelly and Dorow attended the school, it was doing far worse. Dom, 60% of the class at 99 failed the bar exam on the first attempt. That's majority. Hell, that's a filibuster-proof majority. Failed the bar exam on their first attempt. As the Boston Globe reported, prompting the school to overhaul its curriculum. Let's remember, that's like 8 years after Dan Kelly graduated from, what was it called then?
The Christian Broadcasting Network School of Law.
Dom, here's a quote from...
When's the Devil's Advocates School of Law going to come out, man?
Well, I don't know, whenever Jim Santel starts teaching at it. As a 1995 story by the Baltimore Sun reported, classes at Regent begin with the Bible reading, and the secular legal system is analyzed through the prism of the Bible, as it should be, right, Tom? Each class started with 15 minutes of prayer.
15 minutes? 15 minutes? What are they doing? The whole Hail Mary? You know, the whole beads thing? Are they doing the whole rosary? I mean, 15 minutes of prayer? I mean, hell, an hour class, you only got 45 minutes left.
Dom, the dean, Dean Happy, said, we're here for one purpose. Just see it. Pardon me. Let me try that again. We're here for one purpose. To serve Jesus Christ.
Oh, my God.
God. Oh, they've got a law review, Dom. One issue. This has got to be good. One issue of the school's law review was killed because it contained an article arguing that shooting an abortion doctor could be justifiable homicide. The story reported.
Oh,
could be justifiable. Homicide.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at this through the prism of Jesus Christ, and what the hell, right?
Even today, Dom, its mission statement states that Regent University serves as a center of Christian thought and action to provide excellent education, dude, through a biblical perspective and global context, equipping Christian leaders to change the world These values permeate the law school. Oh, it permeates them.
Is that what the smell is?
Stings the nose. With such an education, it's perhaps not surprising that Kelly wrote a book in 2014 with strikingly unorthodox views on the law, declaring that all authority comes not from the U.S. Constitution, but from God. The book also offered a bizarre comparison between slavery and affirmative action, with Kelly arguing that both spring from the same taproot and that neither can exist without the foundational principle that it is acceptance to force someone into an unwanted economic relationship. I bet he's anti-union as well, Dom. In his 2016 application to the governor applying for the vacant justice position, Kelly excoriated the U.S. Supreme Court's landmark Obergefell versus Hodges decision in 2015, striking down the federal law banning same-sex marriage. The decision, he wrote, and here's a quote from the esteemed wanker-appointed fake college former Supreme Court Justice. He wrote, "Will eventually rob the institution of marriage of any discernible meaning. In the name of fairness, we will in time recognize other non-traditional arrangements as marriages. Finally, when marriage eventually means anything imaginable, we will find it means nothing at all."
Does anyone else's marriage, or whatever you want to call it, non-traditional, gay, or otherwise, does that affect your marriage, sir? I don't. These guys are asses. I don't understand. If you don't like gay marriage, don't get gay married. You know what I mean? It's really simple. You're gonna use your Bible to justify your prejudice, right? That's what they do. Krietlow, I'll jump in here a little bit. This is amazing. Oh my God, I had no idea there were such hacks. I mean, I knew there were hacks, but I had no idea to what degree of hackiness was going on here.
As Joe would have said, big time
hack. In short, he proposed to be a state Supreme Court justice with a viewpoint that was hostile to the U.S. Supreme Court decision. And let me just stop right here real quick. I mean, if everything is from God, if whoever Dan Kelly or Doro perceives to be God, and God comes down into their courtroom and tells them to do something unconstitutional, do they do it?
Yes. If you're inspired by God and that overrules the secular constitution, as you're taught at Regent, former Christian Broadcast Network Law School.
Jesus. On one hand, Kelly claimed that the oath he would take as a justice will guarantee to you that my personal political beliefs and my political philosophy will have no impact on me whatsoever. Yet those personal political beliefs were offered by Kelly as his legal views in his application for the Supreme Court position as part of the legal philosophy in his book, a chapter in which he included in his application. Oh, look, and he's saying political, but of course it's religious. And is religion politics? I guess sure, to some degree. Kelly was appointed by Walker, as mentioned, serving 4 years and losing his bid by getting his ass whooped by Karofsky, becoming the second state Supreme Court incumbent in Wisconsin's history to lose re-election. It's telling that Kelly has been endorsed in this election by Justice Rebecca Bradley, who is the most radical member of the court. Kelly wrote a high court decision that found Madison could not bar guns in its buses and has compared abortion to murder. He was also a sure vote for Republican proposals. Kelly has consistently voted in favor of every position taken before the Wisconsin Supreme Court by right-wing Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. Liberal lawyer Lester Pines has written. By the way, Kelly previously served as the advisory board of Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty.
Dominic, let's talk about the other regent-educated Supreme Court wannabe, Doro. Like Kelly, Doro owes her elevation to judge position to wanker. She was appointed to a Wisconsin Circuit Court judge by Governor Walker in 2011 and elevated to chief judge by Wisconsin Supreme Court in 2017. Let's not forget that would be the conservative court. She has been endorsed by High Court Justice Patience Rogensack, who was the driving force in turning the court into a virtual rubber stamp for the GOP. And while Doro has been less vocal about her views than Kelly, in her letter to Wanker, asking to be considered for a judge, she wrote that, I hold strong conservative values that will guide me as a judge. See, the buzzwords are there, Dom. Conservative. I'm the right kind of conservatives. Did the Federalist Society endorse either or both? Interestingly, Kelly is on the record chastising any candidates who talk about their values, arguing they should run for the legislature, not the Supreme Court. His quote, I think values are really just a thin veil put over her personal political agenda. He said of Karofsky, of course, which contradicts Kelly's past statement that his personal political beliefs guide his legal philosophy.
Okay, George Santos.
And Doro has exemplified the same contradiction. In a January 9th debate featuring the 4 candidates, she declared that being fair and impartial meant that she wouldn't give any details as to how she might rule in any case. What wonderful qualities to vote for in a candidate. I got to keep it secret. Here's her quote. The role of a judge should not be interfered with by our political views. We wear a black robe in part to tell of our authority, but also to shield us from the biases and prejudice we undoubtedly bring with our personal experiences. Yet she told Wanker that her strong conservative values would guide her rulings, and her application for judgeship condemned the 2003 Lawrence v. Texas decision by the U.S. Supreme Court as the worst Wisconsin or U.S. Supreme Court decision. The 6-3 ruling cited due process clause of the 14th Amendment to strike down the sodomy law in Texas, thereby making same-sex sexual activity legal, and by extension, invalidating sodomy laws in 13 other states. She doesn't like the sodomy laws, Dom. Sorry to interrupt.
Of course they don't. One more paragraph here. The other 2 candidates in the race got their law degrees from the 2 institutions that have educated most lawyers of either party in the state. Mitchell went to the University of Wisconsin Law School, and Protasevich went to Marquette. Neither school starts each class with 15 minutes of prayer or teaches law through the prism of the Bible. So I'm just calling me crazy here, but when you get out and vote in the primary, vote for the people that didn't go to the Christian Broadcasting Network School of Law. Just an idea.
Come back with us. Go Regions. More Devils.
You will respect my authority.
I asked what kind of family she wanted. She said, a family like yours.
Learn more about adopting a teen at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Today, I made a mental note. It was 1:09 Central Time when I found out Ron Johnson was a conspirator in a coup, a traitor to the Constitution, and Ron's been something of an apologist. They seem real friendly. Well, maybe to you, Ron, because you were on the inside of the coup, and I've never made that accusation prior to today. So let's play it for the people.
This staffer stated that Senator Johnson wished to hand-deliver the fake electors' votes from Michigan and Wisconsin.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
You are never far away from your favorite local radio station. We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app, and we invite you to get social with us by following our network's Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook pages. Want even more? civicmedia.us.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Cloudy skies expected tonight with lows around 26. Southeasterly winds around 5 miles an hour. Cloudy skies expected again tomorrow. Snow likely. High temperatures reach up to 32. Chance of snow showers again tomorrow night. Lows around 24. Cloudy skies. 1 to 2 inches of snow tomorrow through tomorrow night, with another inch Friday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 29 degrees.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to extended coverage of the Devil's Advocates radio show. We're bringing you up to the State of the State address here in the great state of Wisconsin. Governor Evers going to light it up in Madison, telling those Republicans what's what and where he's spending the money.
Dominic, I've been joined here in the Solidarity Realty Studios, the world headquarters, Madison, Wisconsin, right down the road from the scene of the soon-to-be historic speech. It's going to be historic. People are going to talk about this speech for the rest of their natural lives.
People are talking about it. It's kind of a big deal.
And they're going to talk about this appearance by this guy I'm going to introduce right now. He is Todd Allbaugh, host of the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Network. Mostly in the mornings, 8 to 11, but, you know, pulling double duty tonight. How you doing, fella?
Todd.
I'm doing fantastic, guys. Thanks for having me on. This is like almost like an Oscar award show for me, for a guy who grew up in politics as a political nerd. You know, I love the pomp, I love the circumstance, I love everything about it.
That makes one of us. You have been in the chambers many, many times. You served at the right hand of Dale Schultz, a guy we respect a lot, but he was a twice elected Senate Majority Leader. And I'm sure
Republican.
Republican.
Yes, put that out there, man.
And you're a reformed Republican. At least that's what I'm going to describe you as. But I mean, when you're in the room, what are you looking for? I always look at the smugness of Robin Foss.
Well, sure. It's fun when you're in the room to actually look at the kind of the reactions there. But from a staffing standpoint, and of course, Dale, Senate Majority Leader, never gave a Senate or a State of the State address, but he did give addresses, and oftentimes he would give, when Jim Doyle was governor, a couple of times he gave the Republican response. We actually coined a thing called the pre-buttal, where Dale came out with a speech in the afternoon before the State of the State. And one of the things that you want from a staffing standpoint, or just a pure political standpoint, you're thinking about the headline tomorrow, what you want your boss. So the governor's folks have huddled, and I heard you guys talking about this earlier with Pat Krietlow and with Earl Ingram Jr. about what they want the message to be into the public and into the media. So that's one thing they're looking for, but also kind of how it plays in the room.
So let me ask you, it's a political event. It's political theater, no doubt. Tony, perhaps not always the barn burner of a speech giver, but we are in a political cycle. We've talked quite a bit, and I'm sure you have on your show, the Todd Allbaugh Show, 8 to 11 across the Civic Media Network, mostly the western portions.
You're too kind.
But I'm sure you've talked about the fact we are in the midst of an elective cycle. So what is the governor's role as a politician tonight to lay out the case for Democrats or the liberal majority, perhaps on the court, giving us back an opportunity for fair maps, undoing the gerrymander, undoing an 1849 ban on abortion in the state of Wisconsin? I mean, you want to keep the kids on the farm? You're going to tell young women they don't have control over their own bodies, but, suck it.
You and Dom talked about this earlier on the show, and part of it is to excite the base, right? And one of the things that I think that maybe not the governor so much, but the folks around him have just been lacking, in my personal opinion, is touting all the accomplishments that this governor has done. I mean, he has made the roads better. Employment at a historic low. We have a record surplus in the state. He got us through a pandemic. He created small business grants to help save hundreds, if not thousands, of businesses across the state of Wisconsin. I mean, those are things that Democrats should be touting to get them excited.
Yeah, but the Packers aren't in the playoffs. And Scott Walker will be quick to tell you every time the Packers have won the Super Bowl, Republican governor in charge.
Sure, right. You guys also talked about abortion. I have procured in my hot little hands about 45 minutes ago 2 different copies. And of course, I knew who my boss is. Here is the actual full copy, Krietlow, of the governor's speech.
Don't tempt me, man, because this is probably embargoed, but let's start giving it for him.
It probably is. But what I find really interesting in the first draft that I got, the governor does have a line about protecting a woman's right to choose and basically alluding to abortion. In the cleaned up version, which appears to be the final version, that line appears to be gone. So we'll see, because I know you and Pat Krietlow were talking about this, say maybe to not give the Republicans a talking point. We'll see if that line stays in the final draft. I'm not sure what.
Todd, let me ask you it, and this has been said before, and I'm not clear. How is the Democratic governor, who would be lamenting the fact of abortion not being legal and safe for women in the state, and referring back to, and Republicans, MAGA, wanting this 1849 law, this is what we have. How is that giving Republicans in any way, shape, or form a talking point?
Well, I think it depends on who you talk to. I mean, I would advocate that you need to bring it out. I need to advocate for this. We had a story on my show a couple days ago by Heather Cox Richardson, who writes for National Public Radio a lot. I was unaware until I read this. Back in the 70s, the Southern Baptist Conference advocated for safe abortions in cases of rape, incest, or endangerment of the mother's life. And it wasn't until Pat Buchanan, working for then President Nixon, decided to militarize this issue and politicize it, that conservatives and religious leaders went 100% pro-life. And in the last Marquette Law School poll, it was 27% of Republicans last fall said that they supported rape, incest, or endangerment of mother's life exception.
He is Todd Allbaugh. He is going to host our very special coverage of the State of the State address. And Todd, it's going to sneak up on us, because at the top of the 7, we're going to take you to the Wisconsin State Capitol. Our Civic Media News Director, Terry Bell, is in the chambers, so you can check in with Terry. But Todd, before it comes creeping up, man, because we'll talk you right up to the hard break. You know how Dom is.
Well, it's always great talking with you guys. I love the real conversation. That's a great part about you guys' program.
Well, here's what I like. Deep in the speech, and I'm not going to steal all of Governor Evers' thunder, but deep in the speech, he talks a lot about the bounce back grants issued by the state of Wisconsin. And I will tell you, I'm very happy to see that Tony's going to propose some new funding and some new bounce back grants in the newest budget. And I mean, this is an investment literally in Main Street, Wisconsin. Tony's been doing it with federal dollars, no doubt. But if we got this kind of surplus, $50 million relative to what we burned on a Foxconn, just in infrastructure, just an eminent domain, buying out people's houses, that $50 million could help another 5,000 businesses get started in the state of Wisconsin. And that's what I'm talking about.
Eminent domain is forcing people to sell their homes. But please go ahead, Todd.
No, I think that's another great point. Again, focusing on economic successes like these bounce back grants, and using money, the surplus money, the nearly $7 billion of taxpayer money, using that to play the Republicans' game. Economics, job creation. That's the Republican line. I think it's brilliant for the Democrats and Tony Evers to steal that tonight.
Well, thank you so much for all the people that helped us do this special bonus coverage, including our buddy Earl Ingram. You can hear him. He competes with Todd for your attention, 8 to 11.
We're one big team.
You know, it is a big team. Also, Pat Krietlow, he gets you up early around here on the Civic Media, 6 to 8 a.m. Thank you to Ben Wikler, Democratic Party of Wisconsin chair. And don't forget, stick around. Special coverage, the State of the State address. And I make this prediction. This will be the most memorable Tony Evers speech you have ever heard on the Civic Media app and on the Civic Media Network. You're welcome. Todd, you've got the conch.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. See you, man.
Take care, guys.
Paid for by government.com.
The 1921 to 1935 silver piece dollar, a true American classic, and one of the most iconic silver dollar coins in history. It has been over 85 years since these silver dollars were minted for circulation, but now, for a limited time only, full pound bags of original U.S. government-struck silver dollars are being released to the public. That's right, you can own a full pound of 1921 to 1935 original silver dollar coins, all in very good collector condition, with fully visible dates and mint marks, guaranteed. Call 1-800-473-1745 now to secure collector-grade U.S. silver dollars by the pound, minted during the Roaring '20s and the Great Depression. Plus, receive a bonus American Collector's Pack valued at over $25 free with every order. Call 1-800-473-1745 now to secure your full pound of United States silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-473-1745. 1-800-473-1745.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Civic Media app.
Welcome to this special coverage of Governor Tony Evers' State of the State Address, live from the Wisconsin State Capitol, and brought to you by the Civic Media Network of radio stations.
News Director Terry Bell is covering the address from the Assembly Chamber, and Todd Allbaugh joins him from our studios, providing you with a comprehensive breakdown of the governor's address. Important information you won't find anywhere else.
Our State of the State coverage begins now, live on your local Civic Media radio station and streaming everywhere on the Civic Media app.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our coverage of the State of the State Address. I'm Todd Allbaugh, host of the Todd Allbaugh Show, and many of these other stations here on the Civic Media World Headquarters. And we're going to be joining Terry Bell in just a minute, our new Civic News
State
Director.
Treasurer John
Right now,
Labor.
some introductions happening in the chamber. And maybe just turn down the volume of the Wisconsin cast there just for a second. Very good. And Terry, welcome back. You are live in the chamber right now. Give us a flavor of the room from the State Capitol
Members
live.
of the State Supreme Court, Justice Ann Walsh
Todd, it is
Bradley.
good to be with you. We are sitting through the introductions, as you mentioned just moments ago. A lot of people are recognized at this. The members of the Supreme
Justice
Court,
Patience
the
Rogensack.
cabinet members, different legislative leaders. Very much a normal part of this ceremony happening. That's the ceremonial part of the
Justice
speech.
Brian
We'll get
Hagedorn.
down to the nuts and bolts soon enough. But now is very much the applause lines.
Right, exactly. And just kind of working on the volumes here, trying to get the volume of the crowd down just a little bit, and your volume up, so we should be all set to go now. But you've been through a lot of these. You've been in the news business a long time. I've been in the chamber as well. The Supreme Court has been introduced, and those members are there. The state Senate then follows them into the chamber. It's a lot of pomp and circumstance, a lot of excitement. It's the one time when the chambers are both, there's at least a moment of bipartisanship, right? They try to get along.
It certainly feels that way. It's the night that makes you feel that people could work together and cooperate. There's much discussion about that happening. Of course, once we get into the nuts and bolts of the lawmaking, is when definitely the discussion, the debates will happen. But tonight is largely a night for unity.
Sounds great. It really is a night for unity. As I said, a lot of pomp and circumstance right now. The chamber is the biggest chamber in the Capitol, the State Assembly chamber. All 99 members are supposed to be there. Earlier tonight, 92 members of the Assembly are currently there. And there is the announcement. The governor, Tony Evers, the 46th governor of the state of Wisconsin, being introduced. He has just started his second term and coming into the chamber.
All right, that was quick. Everybody pay attention here. The joint convention shall come to order. The chair recognizes the Assembly Sergeant at Arms.
Mr. President and members, the governor of the great state of Wisconsin, the Honorable Tony Evers.
And there is the official announcement. It was Senator and the President of the Senate, Chris Kapinga, at the head of the joint session. And now the governor making his way into the room and down through the aisle, the center aisle. Republicans to the left of the governor as he walked in, Democrats to the right, through the middle of the Assembly chamber. The senators are located on the aisles, mostly. The governor being escorted, looks like Senator Brad Path, a Democrat of La Crosse, and Republican Van Wangard. Traditional that a Republican and a Democrat both escort the governor into the assembly chambers. The governor shaking hands on both sides of the aisle as he makes his way down the middle of the assembly chamber. Terry, does it appear that both Republicans and Democrats on their feet there this evening?
Plenty of people have taken their seats. I assume that the Democrats are standing, the Republicans are sitting.
It appears that, a little bit of both, a little bit of bipartisanship there, so that's good to see. Governor looking, I'm always a big judge of appearance a little bit. These are not only broadcast on the radio, as we're doing here, but also streamed on television. And, of course, many prints and photographs will be taken for newspaper headlines tomorrow. The governor looking particularly well-dressed and natty tonight, looking in a good mood, looking healthy, looking rested, and ready to go as he makes his way onto the dais there. Still shaking the leadership of the Supreme Court and then the leadership of the Wisconsin State Senate as well. Going now towards the press gallery a little bit, towards Terry's area, and now making his way up onto the dais to give his speech. Governor Tony Evers, the 46th governor of Wisconsin. This is his 5th State of the State address.
At this time, I introduce to you the governor of the great state of Wisconsin, the Honorable Tony Evers.
And there it is, another standing ovation, particularly by Democrats. Not a lot of Republicans on this second introduction standing up, mostly Democrats. And here is the 46th governor of Wisconsin, Tony Evers, for his State of the State address.
Good evening, Wisconsin. Honorable Supreme Court justices, our great tribal nation leaders, constitutional officers, Major General Knapp, members of the Wisconsin National Guard, and active and retired members of our armed forces, cabinet members, Senate President Kapenga, Majority Leader Mitt Lemieux, Minority Leader Agard, Speaker Voss and Minority Leader Neubauer, legislators, distinguished guests, and to all of the Wisconsinites joining us, whether you're here tonight or where you're in the gallery or watching from home, thanks so much for being here tonight. I'm Tony Evers, and I'm proud to be standing here tonight as the 46th governor of the great state of Wisconsin to deliver my 5th State of the State address. And it's good to be back. It's good to be back. My son Nick and his wife Landa are with us tonight, and my former kindergarten classmate Kathy is up in the gallery. We celebrated our 50th. We celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary last year, and this year we'll be celebrating our 54th year of going to the Wisconsin State Fair together. How about that, Kathleen, Francis? Thank you so much for your relentless support, understanding, really good humor, and insight. I love you so much. Thank you. Thank you. On May 29th, 1848, President Polk signed a bill making Wisconsin a state. That means in 2023, we'll be celebrating Wisconsin's 175th birthday, and I'm proud to report to you tonight that in 175 years of statehood, our state has never been in a better fiscal position than it is today. When we began our work together 4 years ago, our roads and bridges were in disrepair. We'd sent back tens of millions of dollars of your tax dollars to Washington, D.C. that could have been used to expand high-speed internet. Our school rankings dropped to 18th in the country at one point. Support for our university system had been cut by hundreds of millions of dollars, and our state was not actively working to address climate change or invest in clean energy. Well, I am proud to say that the state of our state is much different today. We've gotten to work fixing the darn roads. I even helped fill some of those potholes by myself, by the way. It's not a full-time job for me. And I stand here tonight, I'm proud to report we've worked together to repair and improve over 5,800 miles of roads and nearly 1,600 bridges across our state. We've also gotten back on track preparing our state and our workforce and our economy for this century. For the last 4 years, we've allocated more than $340 million into expanding high-speed internet, more than any other administration in our state's history. More than 387,000 homes and bridges will have new or improved access to reliable high-speed internet. And I want to double that number by the end of this term. And together we will do that. We've also created the Council on Health Equity and charged them with preparing a blueprint for reducing and eliminating health disparities across our state. We created the state's first ever plan to respond to and mitigate the effects of climate change. I signed an executive order creating the first ever Office of Environmental Justice to develop strategies that will help us address disparate impacts of climate change in communities across the state. Our state now has a clean energy plan with strategies to help lower energy bills for working families, reduce our reliance on out-of-state energy sources, invest in job training and apprenticeship programs in innovative industries and technologies, and create an estimated more than 40,000 jobs by 2030. I've also kept my promises. I vetoed every bill before me that restricted reproductive freedom. Excuse me. We've also delivered a 10% tax cut for working families. We increased investments in our public transit and our university system and technical college. We've convened a Blue Ribbon Commission to help develop solutions and create opportunities for Wisconsin's veterans. And last October, we took the Commission's recommendations and announced $10 million to support veterans' mental health, create a rental assistance program for homeless veterans, and to expand veterans' access to skills and job training. We've gotten to work these last 4 years making smart strategic investments, and our state's economy shows it. For the last 4 years, unemployment has hit record lows. We've had the highest number of people employed ever. Our state has a AAA bond credit rating for the first time in about 40 years. That means we're able to get lower interest rates and save your tax dollars. Our general fund and rainy day fund both ended the last fiscal year at the highest levels ever in our state's 175-year history. We're now expected to end the current biennium with about a $6.5 billion in our state coffers and over $1.7 billion in the rainy day fund. And that's great news, Wisconsin. It means we can continue our progress making the wise investments we've long needed to do, and not because anyone wants to make government bigger, but because Wisconsinites want a government that works and works better. We have roads and bridges to fix, schools to fund, kids to support, communities to keep safe, water to keep clean, and a future we've built together after years of neglect that today we must work to protect. We've worked to invest in public education at every level after a decade of disinvestment. We passed the largest increase in special education aid in state's history. Our K through 12 schools have now returned to the top 10 in the country. But we also know our current system is not sustainable. For years, communities have raised their own property taxes to keep their local schools afloat. And while some school districts have successfully passed referenda to help keep the lights on, many have tried and failed. The system means drastic differences in outcomes for our kids, creating winners and losers, haves and have-not. Doing what's best for our kids has always been what's best for our state, and today we can afford to do more. So I'm going to deliver on the promise I made before the election to use a portion of our state's historic surplus to make an historic investment in our kids and in our schools. We're going to make targeted investments to improve reading and literacy outcomes and expand financial literacy curriculum across our state. We're going to invest $20 million to increase literacy-related programming and implement evidence-based reading practices across Wisconsin. And our Do the Math initiative will help ensure our kids have the tools and skills to make smart budgeting and financial decisions to prepare for their future.
Evan, are we there?
Looks like the feed dropped out a little bit. We can just
a pathway to get experienced educators back into the workforce.
Both my
by
feeds
making
cut,
it easier
so
for school
we'll just watch
districts
this
to
carefully.
hire retired teacher and staff. And we're going to invest $20 million into recruiting, developing, and retaining teachers and student teachers, including $10 million for our local homegrown educators to bolster our educator pipeline and ensure it's sustainable for the future. We also have work to do to get our kids caught up from the past few years. We all want to improve outcomes and ensure our kids are prepared for success. I believe that together we will, and we'll start by making sure our kids can bring their full and best selves to our schools and to our classrooms. Now, we cannot overstate the profound impact that the past few years have had on our kids in many ways, and that includes their mental health. According to the Office of Children's Mental Health 2022 report, about 1/3 of our kids experience sadness and hopelessness, every day. That's every day, a 10% increase over the last decade. Kids in crisis are often distracted or disengaged in class, might not be able to finish their homework, and won't be able to focus on their studies at home or at school. Improving student mental health can also improve student learning outcomes and school attendance while reducing bullying, risky behaviors, violence, involvement in the juvenile justice system, and substance misuse. So over the last year, we've doubled our investment in our Get Kids Ahead initiative, investing $30 million of our federal pandemic relief funds to provide every Wisconsin public school district with new resources to expand school-based mental health services. Tonight, I'm announcing we're going to Get Kids Ahead a permanent state program, and we're investing more than $270 million to ensure every student has access to mental health services. It's important that the last few years have affected our kids' mental and behavioral health and adults' mental health too. We've seen a record high opioid-related overdose deaths, and Wisconsin's 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline received 6,000 calls just in the first month of its launch this past July. The state of mental health in Wisconsin is a quiet, burgeoning crisis that I believe will have catastrophic consequences for generations if we don't treat it with the urgency it requires. Mental and behavioral health is as much of a health issue as it is an economic one. It affects kids in the classroom. It affects workers being able to join and stay in our workforce. It affects whether folks are able to stay in safe housing or have economic security. It affects folks' ability to take care of and provide for their family and loved ones. So tonight, I'm declaring 2023 the year of mental health. And together with our Get Kids Ahead initiative investment, we'll be making an overall investment of about $500 million to expand access to mental and behavioral health services for the people of Wisconsin. 2022 report by the University of Wisconsin Population Health Institute indicates that there are 440 people for each mental health provider in Wisconsin. And even before the pandemic, a 2019 report from the Institute indicated that 55 of Wisconsin's 72 counties have significant shortages of psychiatrists. So we're also going to invest in making sure we have adequate available mental health professionals who can provide the treatment Wisconsinites need across our state. We're going to invest in developing robust prevention strategies to reduce suicide, self-harm, and other mental and behavioral health-related injuries. And that includes state resources to support 988, the new Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, which went live in 2022 thanks to our Senator Tammy Baldwin, as well as increased support for peer-run and community-based services across the state. Mental health deals with everybody here, you know, not just this side also. We cannot look back 2 years from now as we prepare the next budget and wonder whether we should have done more and sooner to take good care of our mental health. Let's take this seriously and let's start today. Mental health is just one issue facing our state that needs urgent attention and action. I've also spent 4 years trying to get some folks, and some of them in this room, believing PFAS are a pressing threat to our state's economy and our health and our well-being and our way of life. I created the state's PFAS Action Council to prepare the state's first ever PFAS action plan. We set enforceable PFAS drinking and surface water standards for the first time ever. Attorney General Call and I have filed a lawsuit against more than a dozen defendants who we believe contributed to PFAS contamination and make sure Wisconsinites won't have to foot the bill for cleaning it up. I also directed $10 million that will help get PFAS, nitrates, and other harmful contaminants out of about 1,000 private wells in Wisconsin. Clean drinking water has been a priority for my administration from day one. We've also proposed efforts and resources and ideas to make headway on PFAS and other contaminants that have been obstructed, delayed, and outright rejected. So tonight, I implore you again to join us in this fight. The work we must do to address PFAS and other contaminants grows harder and more expensive with each day of delay. Partisan politics cannot keep getting in the way of this work while Wisconsinites worry about the water coming from their tap. Clean water must be a top priority from us, from PFAS to lead to nitrates, and it will be in my executive budget I'll announce next month. I'm proposing to invest more than $100 million to take a three-pronged approach to confronting PFAS across the state. We're going to increase PFAS testing, sampling, and monitoring statewide so that we can find these contaminants and get them out of the water. We're going to make more resources available to on-the-ground partners to respond to PFAS contamination when it happens. And we're going to work to increase awareness about the dangers of PFAS so folks can take steps to keep themselves and their loved ones safe. Whether it's PFAS and clean water, supporting our farmers and our agriculture industry, finding more district attorneys and public defenders, expanding access to affordable housing and childcare, every level of government must be working together to address the challenges facing our state. And the state must do its part if we want our local partners to help us with this important work. But we also know that for the last decade, local communities have been asked to do more with less. State aid has gone down while costs have gone up. While help from the state was cut by more than 9%, public safety costs have skyrocketed more than 16%. Communities across Wisconsin have made difficult decisions to cut critical services, including public safety. Last fall, I announced a plan to invest over $100 million to help our local governments fund essential services and communities across our state. And that includes a new $10 million program to help specifically fund public safety services like EMS, police, and fire. The bottom line for me has always been making sure our communities have the resources they need to meet basic and unique needs alike. But there are a lot of different ways we can find compromise to achieve that goal. And together we will. So as we keep working together on a plan, let's find common ground. I'm announcing tonight that I will work together on a budget provision that will send a total of up to 20% of the state's sales tax revenue back to our local communities for shared revenue. This commitment will ensure our communities will see growth in shared revenue in the future after years of state investment not keeping up with their community needs. And it means more than $500 million more per year in new resources to invest in key priorities like EMS, fire and law enforcement services, transportation, local health and human services, and other challenges facing our communities. The state must fulfill its obligation to fund our communities, just like we must fully fund our public schools and invest in clean water. Our state and our economy and our workforce depend on these investments. At the same time, just because we're in the greatest fiscal position in the state's history doesn't mean we can afford to be careless. Wisconsinites have to work too hard and have gone through too much for us to return to austerity. Now is the time to stay prudent, to save smart, and be bold with reasonable investments to keep building a lasting legacy of prosperity. So cutting taxes is part of our agenda, just as it has been for the last 4 years. We've kept more money in Wisconsinites' pockets and delivered the largest tax cut in state's history. And we can do more. But I also want to be clear tonight, splurging $3.5 billion to hand out to big breaks to the wealthiest 20% of earners isn't responsible. It's a bit reckless. When we deliver tax relief, and we will deliver tax relief, we're going to do it responsibly by ensuring we can keep taxes low and now and in the future, and we'll do it without driving our state into debt or causing devastating cuts to priorities like public schools and public safety. Spending billions on a flat tax isn't a workforce plan or an economic development plan. We need to bolster the middle class. We need to maintain our economy's momentum. And we need to reduce barriers to work and recruit and retain talent to address our state's workforce challenges. We have a plan to responsibly address all three priorities, and we can begin here tonight. A key priority in our strategy for investing federal pandemic aid was supporting Wisconsin's small businesses, our workforce, and long-term economic development. And we were successful. A new 2023 report shows that the share of aid we received under the American Rescue Plan Act, Wisconsin ranks #1 in the country for both the aid we directed to support businesses and aid we directed towards economic development. We invested more than $800 million to provide grants to tens of thousands of businesses to respond to and get through the pandemic, to make healthy and safe improvements, purchasing inventory, affording payroll and rent, and to keep the lights on. Through our successful Main Street Bounce Back grant program, I'm proud to announce tonight that we've helped more than 8,500 Wisconsin small businesses expand and move into vacant storefronts in communities across all 72 counties. If you travel around the state like I do, you can literally see the transformative impacts these investments have made in corridors and communities across Wisconsin. Take Fond du Lac, for example, right by where Kathy and I grew up in Plymouth. Cheese capital of the world, by the way. Some things haven't changed much over the years, like Edith's right downtown in Fondy, where Kathy bought her first wedding, or her wedding, not her first wedding dress. Her first and last wedding dress, I hope. Good Lord. But other things have changed, even just in the last year alone. Monica, who owns a jewelry store in Fond du Lac, is one of those businesses that received one of our Main Street Bounce Back grants. Monica took a chance opening her store on the street in Fondy that at the time was surrounded.
We got your feed, Terry?
And we're waiting a new feed here. It's Terry Bell, our news director on scene. Having a little trouble with our feed there. If you could turn up your mic, Terry, we'll try to get that on for our listeners here. Standing by, we're listening to and back to the governor's State of the State.
And this next one is good for everybody. When I visited Monica's shop, she told me I could never have done this in Florida or California. And she's probably right. But even 4 years ago, this dream might not have been possible in Wisconsin either. When we began our work together, Wisconsin was among the worst states in the country for startup creations. But much like downtown Fondy, Wisconsin's changed a lot since then. Since 2019, we've seen significant increases in business startups. New business formations increased to more than 71,000, and that's a 42% increase between 2019 and 2021. And that was no accident, folks. Our economic recovery plan worked by design. We knew that small businesses make up more than 99% of Wisconsin businesses. We knew that small businesses employ nearly half of Wisconsin workers. We knew that small businesses are more than likely to hire locally, reinvest locally back into the community, buy their supplies locally. We fueled our economic recovery by harnessing the ingenuity and homegrown talent we already have right here in Wisconsin. It's why our focus must continue to be building our economy from the ground up, starting with our small businesses, our main streets, and the hearts of our community. Tonight, I'm excited to announce we're going to continue our Main Street Bounce Back program in my biennial budget with a $50 million investment to provide as many as 5,000 eligible businesses with grants up to $10,000 to help afford building repairs and improvements, lease and mortgage payments, and defray other expenses that can be a barrier to someone's dream becoming a successful business. We're also going to ensure that more than 8,500 small businesses who've already received Main Street Bounce Back grants continue to thrive by investing up to $5 million into providing technical assistance, mentorships, educational training to these small business owners to ensure they have the support they need to continue their success. Our homegrown innovators and entrepreneurs also need homegrown talent to support our local businesses and our local economies. And that's what has been a top priority for us these past 4 years. We had record high job numbers in 2022 in really important sectors like construction, wholesale trade, professional, scientific, and technical services, and transportation and utilities. Our registered apprenticeship program last year had the highest number of participants ever in our state history. And last year we added 14 new career pathways to our youth apprenticeship program, construction, agriculture, health science, and health engineering. We made a groundbreaking investment in the 3 programs designed to address our state's post-pandemic workforce needs, including our Worker Advancement Initiative and our Worker Connection Program, which help provide more skills training, career coaching, and connected unemployed workers with available jobs. We also recognize that we cannot solve our workforce challenges with a one-size-fits-all from Madison approach. What Superior needs to support its local workforce and economy might be different from the needs in Platteville and Milwaukee or La Crosse or Marinette. So we created the Workforce Innovation Grant Program and invested in 27 local projects across our state to develop long-term locally based solutions that meet the unique needs of local communities and regions. One of those projects at Wisconsin Forestry Center at UW-Stevens Point is focused on developing the next generation of forestry professionals with a skills curriculum in K through 12 schools to get more young people into this critical profession. Yeah, how about that? Another project with the Waupaca County Economic Development Corporation is expanding transportation services to make sure workers can get to work and around the clock, even third shift. Tonight, I'm announcing we're going to continue harnessing our local ingenuity through the Workforce Innovation Grant with a $100 million investment in my budget to keep developing new innovative ideas and locally based projects that will support our workforce and economic development based on what those communities and regions need. We're also going to invest $10 million in an initiative led by the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation to collaborate with industries in every sector of our state's economy to develop and implement initiatives to retain and attract talented workers. And you all know this, we also need investments in targeted industries that we know have been hit hard by the pandemic, including the healthcare industry. I'll propose a historic $50 million investment to bolster Wisconsin's healthcare workforce, to expand our long-term care providers, increase the number of mental health providers and psychiatrists, and expand the Wisconsin Nurse Educator Program to provide high-quality education for our future nurses. Finally, our state's clean energy plan provides a blueprint for skills training, apprenticeships, and creating good-paying, family-supporting jobs by investing in new innovative industries and technologies. So we're going to invest nearly $10 million to expand clean energy job training and reemployment and reducing barriers for folks joining our clean energy workforce. But there's another critical factor that affects our state's workforce, and I hear about it everywhere I go, no matter which corner of the state I'm visiting. 54% of Wisconsinites today live in a child care desert, where there are few to no high-quality options for child care in their neighborhood or their community. And even if there were a nearby child care provider, it still might not be affordable for a working family. If we want to address our state's workforce challenges, we have to make sure childcare is accessible and affordable, and together we will. So the first thing we're going to do to deliver on my promise to expand the Child Independent Care Credit, which will provide nearly $30 million in tax relief to more than 100,000 Wisconsinites. Through our Partner Up program, more than 200 employers from Prescott to Rivers are helping make childcare more affordable for their employees. We've also helped stabilize the childcare industry through our monthly child care counts program, providing the financial stability providers needed to stay open and recruit and retain quality staff to care for our kids. All told, we helped more than 3,300 providers across the state keep their doors open, and we helped more than 22,000 child care professionals stay employed or become employed, and we helped ensure care continuing for more than 113,000 kids across our state. That's a big deal, folks. That is a big deal. These two programs made a big difference in the lives of kids and working families across the state. But the reality is that the federal funds that support them won't last forever. So we'll be continuing these programs to keep childcare affordable and accessible in my budget. We're going to provide more than $340 million for childcare accounts so providers can have the financial stability they need to keep the lights on, pay their workers fair, competitive wages, and continue to provide high-quality care to kids across the state. We'll also be investing more than $22 million into the Partner Up program to expand partnerships between employers and child care providers, because our employers are ready to play a role in ensuring workers have the access to affordable child care, and we're ready to support them. Wisconsin, we face much work ahead of us, but there is much opportunity. We can do big things in our next 4 years together, and if we are inspired, not by power, but by partnership, if we are dedicated, not to selfish interests, but to self-sacrifice, if we can forge new paths, not through conflict, but through collaboration, then together we will. So let's get to work, folks. Thank you so much. And on Wisconsin. Thank you. UW Marching Band, take it away.
And there you have it. Governor Tony Evers in his 5th State of the State address, being serenaded as he goes out by the University of Wisconsin Marching Band. How can you end a speech with the band and not be excited about that? Perhaps the most exciting part of the speech there. I don't believe that the University of Wisconsin Marching Band has performed on the floor of either chamber in the Assembly or Senate since Fred Risser became the longest serving state legislator in America, when Dale Schultz, who was the Senate Majority Leader, invited the University of Wisconsin Marching Band to come in and perform in the Senate. So nice to see the Marching Band of Wisconsin there on the Assembly floor today. Governor Tony Evers wrapping up his speech there. I don't know what your takeaway was. We're joined once again on the floor of the State Assembly in the chamber there by Civic News Media Director Terry Bell. Terry, my big takeaway, the headline would be, for the Bill Clinton era, it was the economy, stupid. I heard it time and time again. What's your takeaway?
Well, certainly there was a lot of talk about the economy, and Todd, I don't know how well you can hear me.
We can hear you fine,
now.
Terry.
Okay, excellent. That's good. The band is still going strong here. Yeah, quite a bit of talk about, first of all, the governor touted his own economic record. It talked about right now low unemployment, a record surplus, $1.7 billion in the state's rainy day fund, and everything that he wants to do with that. So, and then giving us a bit of a preview of the state budget address, talking a lot about some of the things that he plans to do, introduce in the state budget, many of them economically geared. So we heard very little about anything else but what Tony Evers feels he has accomplished and what he wants yet to accomplish economically for Wisconsin.
Terry, I wanted to take just a minute to talk about the feel of the room here, because watching the video of this at the same time, it was remarkable to me. And I've been watching a lot of these. I've been participating in many of them in the state legislature, been watching State of the Union addresses at the congressional level in D.C. for years. I don't know that I've ever seen a speech by an executive, either the State of the State or a State of the Union, where the opposition party sat nearly stone cold. No response almost whatsoever. And even now, as the University of Wisconsin Marching Band is playing Roll Out the Barrel, Republicans are standing there without even clapping. It's remarkable to me.
The optics are quite striking, Todd. I will say that it's it's not unusual for the party of the governor to have a more enthusiastic response to the applause lines, but being here in the chamber, and I'm sure on television, it was quite striking the way that only one half of the room was standing up or applauding at any point in the speech until the UW marching band came on. That might give us a bit of a sense of what we can expect from this upcoming session. There was some feeling that the governor had momentum coming into this night, coming off a re-election, and Republicans not living up to the red wave election in November as had promised. So there was some feeling that maybe this might be a session of compromise, if for no other reason that it would be politically expedient. But tonight, the optics, my goodness, would not indicate that anybody is of any mind to meet anybody halfway.
I have, one of my former Republican colleagues who worked in both Washington, D.C. and in state government, been at it longer than I, and full disclosure, not one of my former bosses, but a friend who also worked in politics. And she too said she's never seen anything like it at any level for the opposition party of either party just to have basically no reaction on things like small business grants. I mean, these are issues, Terry, that that Republicans have held up for years, helping small businesses across rural areas of the state. How can you not even applaud for that?
I can't help but think that this was a coordinated plan, that there was some huddling going on before the speech and going, we're not going to apply for anything, because there was I couldn't even indicate any spontaneous applause for even of those middle of the road proposals. So
even like Terry, when the governor mentioned the first lady of the state, I don't recall whether it was Jim Doyle as governor, as a Democrat, Republicans stood up, whether as the opposition party, whether it was Tommy Thompson introducing Sue-Ann Thompson, and Democrats stood up. The first lady almost as always, in my opinion, my recollection, got a standing ovation. Tonight, a few Republicans quietly applauded at their seat. They did not stand for the first lady of the state of Wisconsin. Astounding to me.
Perhaps we've seen what we can expect from the next several months.
Let's talk a minute as you await. I know you have State Representative Francesca Hong joining us here in a few minutes. Let us know when she is there, Terry. But let's talk.
Glad to.
Let us know. Let's talk a couple of minutes about the actual proposal. $270 million to get the kids ahead, mental health, and this is an issue that we've talked about on my show in the mornings here. I know the other hosts across Civic Media have talked about this, but the need for mental health issues, to address mental health issues, as we have a record number of shootings across the United States of America now, and mental health contributes to this. The governor tonight announced $270 million specifically for kids' mental health, $500 million, $500 million to go into the state's mental health, to address mental health across the state. It seems to me that the governor is dialed in on not only the local economies, but this issue of mental health, Terry.
And it's quite striking, too, because when we talk about what to do about gun violence, repeatedly what we hear the Republican response to this is, we need better mental health care. So here is the governor proposing, what some might argue is a very Republican solution to some of our problems. Not much of a response.
On the issue of clean water, this is an issue that one of our hosts, Kristen Bry, on As Goes Wisconsin, which can be heard across the Civic Media Radio Network from 11 until 2. Kristen had a guest on her show here this week, I believe, or last week, talking about PFAS. This is an issue, these microplastics, essentially. This is a statewide issue. And we're seeing this out in California and other states where you don't have clean drinking water for perhaps other reasons. Again, the governor announcing tonight $100 million is going to be in his budget to address PFAS issues across the state of Wisconsin.
And I think, maybe this might be one thing that there might be some actual desire to compromise on. And we'll see that as it plays out. Again, rather striking, kind of the tepid response to some of these seemingly issues that people you think might be able to get around
Pat
and get along on.
Pat Krietlow on Up North News in the mornings from 6 until 8 on Civic Media. And, of course, our flagship show, Devil's Advocate with Crudy and Dom in the afternoon, have repeatedly talked about shared revenue in this state. That is the money that taxpayers send to the state, and then we get returned to local governments to fund things like police protection, roads, this sort of thing. The governor announced tonight 20% of sales tax revenue back to locals in shared revenue. Again, it would seemingly, this should be a bipartisan issue. You would think that every legislator would want money going back to the locals, and they could take credit for it.
Yeah, you would certainly think so, wouldn't you?
you would think. Small businesses, $50 million for the Bounce Back Main Street program, again, to help businesses get back on their feet. $100 million, the governor announcing tonight, for the Workforce Initiative Grant program for jobs. Again, a huge focus tonight by Governor Tony Evers on jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. We heard a lot about jobs, about job training, and things that the governor wants to do. So, yeah, you're absolutely right, Todd.
$50 million investment for healthcare. The other big thing the governor spent a lot of time on besides mental health, we know that here in Madison, Wisconsin, the UW Nurses Union, they tried to strike a Supreme Court rule because of Act 10. They were not able to do so. And that is an issue that I believe Earl Ingram on his show from 8 until 11 on the Milwaukee and Fox Valley and now the Green Bay market in the Civic Media area, he has talked about as well. I believe Luke Mathers and Brian Kelly on Dueling Tangents in the afternoon has also talked about this. Healthcare workers in the state need help. The governor tonight announcing $50 million investment for healthcare workers across the state, and child care development, $30 million. Healthcare, a big focus for Governor Tony Evers tonight.
Todd, I'm joined now by Madison State Representative Francesca Hong. As Representative, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
What did you hear in the speech that you liked?
I heard comprehensive solutions and plans to complex problems that Wisconsinites have been begging the legislature to take care of. And so it's encouraging to have a governor who presented not only a plan, but really a lot of opportunities for folks to be able to improve their lives drastically. And I think that's what Wisconsinites want their legislators to do.
What do you see most enthusiastically you endorsing for passage as the session progresses?
You know, this investment in our care economy is critical. So to have a governor really reinforce how important it is to make investments in childcare, to make investments in K-12 education, to know that and our workforce is dependent on having access to what are currently barriers to the workforce. And so I think that that is incredibly encouraging, and to know that we have a small business champion in the governor and someone who cares deeply about the fact that we don't have clean water for many Wisconsinites in this state, and it's something that should not be a Republican or Democrat issue. Clean water is what all Wisconsinites deserve.
We were just discussing a moment ago on the broadcast how striking it seemed the optics of the response to the applause lines. Now, it's not unusual for the governor's party to be more enthusiastic than the loyal opposition, but the Republicans were sitting on their hands throughout the whole time, even on issues that would seem to be issues that people can find common ground on. Did you notice that too? I'm sure you did.
I think the Republicans missed an opportunity to show that they are serious about solving a lot of they are not serious about solving a lot of the issues that Wisconsinites are demanding of us. And the fact is, we do have a workforce crisis, and we have a crisis in investment in dignified and high-paying jobs. And these are all things that we can address here in the legislature, but the party in power refuses to do that and would rather put politics and power above what the people of Wisconsin want.
Very good. Representative Francesca Hong of Madison, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Well, Todd, that's some of the reflections from State Representative Francesca Hong. I don't know if the other feed that we have is going to feature the Republican response.
I believe we have to cut away at the top of the hour here for other programming, so stay tuned. We'll have all that Republican response in the morning on the Civic Media Radio Network. But thank you, Terry. Great job as always there. Our news director, Terry Bell, we appreciate you and for the coverage tonight.
Thank you, Todd.
Absolutely. That will conclude our coverage for tonight's State of the State address. A big thank you to everyone who made this broadcast happen, including executive producers Sage Weil and Mike Crute, our producer engineer, the amazing Evan Preston, producer announcer Terry Barr, engineers Brian Kelly, Luke Mathers, Jorge Reyna, and Corey Hartman, vice president of sales director Roxanne Charles, administrative support Alice Schneiderman, our fellow hosts and anchors Dominic Silva, Mike Crute, Earl Ingram Jr., and Pat Krietlow, and above all, you for listening. And for our Civic Media News Director, Terry Bell, I'm Todd Allbaugh. And on behalf of this entire Civic Media News team, we thank you for joining us and make it a good night.
You are listening to WTTN 1580.
Nice job, everybody.
There we are, folks. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Yeah.
it, Evan.
No, that was great. That was great. I don't know if we still have Terry, but hey, that was amazing. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. All right, that's fine. I'm gonna clean up my mess here.